So we'll start. Okay, so I would like to call the meeting of Thursday, April 23rd to order. Roll call, please.
Director Cotton,
Here.
Director Patel. Here. Director Covington. Here. President Bella.
Here. All right. Who would like to lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance today?
Who else?
General Manager? Let's call the flag. Okay, let's go.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag,
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very good. Thank you. All right. Next, public comments, any? No public comments. And we'll go to agenda review, additions or deletion of the consent calendar and consent calendar. Any comments on
Nothing
the agenda? Nothing? Okay, very good. So we'll move on to acknowledgement and presentation. We do have a proclamation for Public Works Week, which is May 17th to the 23rd this year. So who has General Manager? Please.
Yes, I can. So we've done this the last couple of years. This is organized actually by the American Public Works Association. And it is a chance for everyone to celebrate the often unsung work of public works, which we are very, proud part of. So we have a proclamation here, which I'll start reading through.
Please, yes.
Whereas public works services are essential to the health, safety, and overall well-being of the Mid-Peninsula Water District's customers and the greater Belmont and San Carlos communities. And whereas the infrastructure, facilities, and services provided by public works professionals, including water distribution, capital project planning, system maintenance, and emergency response, are fundamental to the daily lives of our community. And whereas public works professionals at the Mid-Peninsula Water District demonstrate dedication, expertise, and pride in delivering safe, reliable, and high-quality drinking water to more than 8,100 service connections throughout the district service area. And whereas these professionals plan, design, operate, and maintain critical water systems that support public health, environmental stewardship, and sustainable community growth, often working behind the scenes under challenging conditions. And whereas National Public Works Week serves as an opportunity to recognize the essential contributions of public works professionals and to highlight the importance of investing in resilient infrastructure and reliable public services. And whereas the Mid-Peninsula Water District is proud to acknowledge the professionalism, collaboration, and commitment of its operations, engineering, and administrative staff, whose collective efforts ensure the continued delivery of exceptional service to the community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of Directors of the Mid-Peninsula Water District does hereby recognize the week of May 17th through 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week and encourages all community members to join in recognizing the vital contributions of public works professionals and their role in sustaining and enhancing our quality of life.
Yes, very good. Very good.
And now we have a special guest.
Oh, oh.
No wonder you're.
It's actually very cool.
Water drop mascot.
Oh,
With
wow.
our logo on the back.
Good graphically.
Yeah.
I want a picture before he takes it off. Can I?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I can't hear anything.
Thank you this last weekend at Earth Day.
Oh, yeah.
If you were a kid. one up. One, two, three. Yeah, we were definitely.
Can we get a
Wow. You are a multi-faceted individual.
Oh, all right.
Well, it'll be the first of many events. So I wasn't here for it either because I was at the progress of an arm. But a bunch of our staff went, including one of our operators, Shane, wore the costume, and had a handler, because it turns out.
Turns out, yeah.
But apparently it was a huge hit, and there were just, people lined up to take a photo.
Perfect.
As you were reading it, I'm hearing that compressor, I'm going, what is that?
I know, that's like we're giggling.
Yeah.
I can know.
That's hilarious.
Oh, and it's I mean, we're really enjoying it. And we figured with the 100th anniversary this year for the city, there's lots of events. This is a really good time to do it.
Julie, see what you're missing?
So.
Well done.
That's
Well
okay.
done. Well,
Very good.
I didn't mess up your hair, so.
Oh, great.
That's,
Everyone's like whispering like so soft.
That's for-
And thank you for doing that.
I haven't tried on, so.
Very good. So. So obviously we have activity during that week, right? In
Yes.
cooperation with Public Works Belmont.
Yeah. For Public Works Week, the city is doing what they did pre-COVID. It's been awkward the last few years because it's always held on a weekday at, noontime. Pre-COVID and this year, they're bringing back, the schools are gonna do walking buses to come attend Public Works Week, celebration. So we'll be there at that. For sure, we always are, but this will be, I think, better attended than the last few years.
Of course. Very good. It's very, very important things to be involved with and participate in and continue to educate, improve the awareness of the people that we serve. Good job.
Great. It's a proclamation. Does the board vote on that, Julie? No.
Yes.
Officially?
Yes, because can you show me the second page of that? Yep, they're gonna vote on that. They're all signing.
Okay, so we do need a motion,
So moved.
second.
Did I hear a second?
Neela?
Yes.
Okay,
Director Cotton?
Yes.
Director Patel?
Yes.
Director Covington?
Yes.
President Bella?
yes.
Signatures?
At the end.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, very good. So now we'll move on to the consent calendar. The consent calendar. We have the approval of the minutes for the March 26th meeting, the April 2nd meeting, and the expenditures from March 1st to March 31st. Any questions or any comments on consent calendar?
Nope.
Okay. I had a question on. The child support, what is that?
I don't know specifically, and we don't want to obviously have a specific employer in here. But there's ways that you have your child support payments could be deducted directly from your paycheck.
Ah, oh. Okay,
Exactly.
all right.
And may I ask one question on page 1, 2, 3, under SCADA or SCADA maintenance,
Data.
SCADA, what is that?
SCADA, and I always blank on the exact acronym, but it is the computer system that operates our remote facilities, like our tanks and our pumps and our regulators.
Great, thank you.
And Telstar is the industrial electrician that does our work with our SCADA system.
Essentially, it's the brain of our system. We can control all of our pumps, and then we could see the tank elevations, and it's literally the heart and brain of our system. So
Thank you so much.
I remember saying the first SCADA system, 45 years ago, and it was an entire room.
Oh,
An entire room was scanned. So, yes, that's exactly what you just said. It is the heart and the brain of our system. All right, very good. So, okay, we need approval. Do we need a motion on this one too?
Yes.
Okay, so we need a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Okay,
well, second.
all right.
Director
So-
Covington?
Mhm.
Yes.
Director Cotton?
Yes.
Director Patel?
Yes.
President Bella?
Yes. All right. Next, we have appeals, none, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And now we'll go to the capital improvement program to consider resolution 2026-10. Delegating authority to the general manager or designee to approve designs and plans for all Mid-Peninsula Water District capital improvement and maintenance projects. So, the general manager.
Yeah, I'll start. So this is something that recently came to my attention actually through actions we took at the mosquito district related to a building project there. And so I started asking some questions, asked Julie, and we have Julie's on, as well as her partner, Alex, who has expertise in this area of design immunities. So working with them, we have this resolution, but Julie or Alex, if you want to explain further.
Why don't I jump in first, and then I'll introduce everyone to Alex, and then she's going to talk about the wonderful world of design immunity. So I have to admit that this really wasn't on my radar for Mid-Pen. And I think that's just, I had a blind spot, because I tend to think of it for construction projects with buildings and things like that, infrastructure, not necessarily pipeline projects. And then when Kat mentioned it to me in the context of Folger and Dairy Lane, it triggered like, yeah, we should be thinking about this. And then when I talked to my partner, Alex Atencio, who's on the phone, she's a litigation partner in our government group. She said, yeah, actually they could be using it for pipeline projects too. And then I did a poll of my colleagues who do general counsel work for water districts and discovered that ACWD has adopted, the design immunity protections, but the other like smaller water districts haven't. However, now that I mentioned it to them, they're watching to see what Mid-Pen does, and then they are thinking about then socializing that to their water districts as well to see if other folks would like to. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Alex so she can explain. And Director Bell, I understand you may have some questions, and we've done our best to prepare for those. But I'm going to hand off to Alex to get into a more fulsome discussion.
Thank you, Julie. And thank you. It's a pleasure to present to the board this evening. I really just wanted to start sort of with an overview, answering the question, really, what is design immunity? So design immunity, it's a legal doctrine that provides a robust defense for public entities against lawsuits that are claiming a dangerous condition of public property caused an injury. So to use this defense, the public agency has to prove three key elements. One, that there's a causal relationship between the approved design and the alleged injury. Two, that there was discretionary design approval in advance of whatever was constructed or built by either the legislative body or a delegated designee by the legislative body. And third, that the design was reasonable at the time it was approved. So essentially, the design immunity doctrine prevents juries and judges from second guessing the complex decisions that oftentimes go into designing public works after an accident has already occurred. So the way I like to think about it is that it's a shield that protects the agency from being held liable for a design choice that seemed reasonable at the time, even if later it's alleged to have, had resulted in unforeseen risks and caused injuries. So in order for an agency to assert design immunity, the design review and approval process must follow the statutory procedure. And the key aspect of that procedure that we're addressing today is the design approval element. So the statute requires that the design is approved, as I said, by the legislative body or by an employee designated by the legislative body to act on its behalf. So the action requested today is for the board to delegate its approval authority to the general manager or his or her designee. So why is delegation appropriate or reasonable? I'll try to just touch on some points from a legal perspective that answer that question. So delegating design review and approval, the design review and approval process to the GM or his or her designee can serve several practical purposes. One, it can just strengthen the legal position. So the legislature, through enacting the governing statute, has empowered public governing bodies to delegate their design approval authority to agency staff. This is what's called discretionary approval, and that's the approval necessary to establish design immunity. And that allows for an authorized agency employee to seamlessly establish the record needed to later assert the design immunity defense that's necessary to protect the agency. So delegating that authority provides the most flexibility to the agency, and it also allows for executive oversight of the process. So this would ensure that the executive is aware of and involved in the design review and approval process and the selection of a specific designee to whom delegated approval authority might be given. And that can simply just make it easier to align with the district's current design review and approval process. So in that way, it serves to improve efficiencies and leverage our internal expertise. So on those points, it's typically more effective for staff that's most involved in the project to handle the technical details of design review and approvals rather than having the board get involved in every minor design decision. So this allows the board to focus obviously on its main governance roles, setting policy, overseeing budgets, et cetera. So by delegating the design approval authority, the board is allowing the design review process to proceed in the most efficient and effective manner. So in short, the delegation is intended to establish a formal, defensible process where the appropriate people make and document the design decisions, thereby protecting the agency from future liability. And I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Good, thank you. Questions, anyone?
I have a question.
Please.
I just wanted to ask, and thank you for that very clear description of both the defense and the suggested action here. If the board itself engages in design review with respect to some aspects of design, but not with respect to others, is there any argument that a potential litigant would have that we either violated our own process or acted contradictory to our own process that could undermine this? Or is it understood that the board still in its governing role may approve some aspects of design and the defense would be available there as well?
If I'm understanding your question, I think it's even if a delegation of authority is provided, could the board still act to review and approve designs? And the answer would be yes.
And that does not in any way undermine the delegation that was given?
No, it shouldn't. I mean, I haven't heard of a case where that's been raised, but it shouldn't because under the statute, both the board has that a power and it can delegate it. And so I think it could be shared.
Okay.
Good, good. Any other questions? I was surprised to see it because, after all these years, this never came up, Julie, so I was kind of like, why now? Or why didn't we do it, 20 years ago? Because this is not a new law, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So,
And that's why I fell on my sword when we first started talking. It just, a lot of our agencies that do infrastructure projects have done this. But not a lot of water districts that I could find, that we work for. But in my first conversation with Alex, she told me I was wrong. We could have been doing this for many years for the pipeline projects, and it just was not on my radar.
hmm,
Can we make this retroactive?
The short answer is no, but there are ways in which we can, think outside the box and get creative about sort of reinvigorating design immunity. But it's a factual kind of analysis that we'd have to undertake.
Mhm. Well, fortunately, it hasn't been an issue. So
yeah, right. Yeah. So
it may never come up.
let's move we're ahead, I guess.
Seems like inexpensive insurance.
Yeah. So, and my comment to the general manager were like, if somebody's gonna make a claim, obviously it's going to be or somebody got injured, obviously we get sued. And they are going to have to prove some kind of a negligence from some part of some sort during the process. So this law that would not protect us from the negligent piece because it has to be proven that there was no negligence from our part. But if there were, we're not protected, right?
So actually, it would immunize the agency. I don't want to get too far afield into the legal specifics, but in general, a public entity cannot be sued for negligence. There has to be a statutory basis. And so where plaintiffs normally sue under is the dangerous condition of public property statute, which is what I mentioned at the beginning. And within the government code, design immunity, as well as several other immunities, exist to immunize agencies from tortious conduct, essentially. And so it would apply to immunize the agency as long as we're, following the statutory procedures.
So it is safe to say that this is like an extra level of protection.
Yes.
All right, which was available to us and we did not use, and now we discovered it, so we're gonna use it.
Mhm.
All right.
Or, I would argue, if we had to argue over it, that we actually did do this, we just never really wrote it down.
Different levels of board
Prescriptively,
review
it
for
was
all our
yes,
projects.
yeah.
And
All right,
General Manager, you
Yeah.
mentioned that part of the reason, sort of the timeliness in this had to do in particular with both the Dairy Lane and Folger projects. And when I think about it, the public will have access to both of those if they're done as planned. And so it actually makes sense to kind of formalize more than anything else this. And there's likely to be a lot of design things that come up as we go along, and being able to delegate to you for those would be efficient for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's very relevant to building projects because they would have public access, but it has some level of relevance to all projects we do. I mean, if we do a pipeline project and we repair the sidewalk, or we put a bollard to protect a fire hydrant. Those are all features that in theory, they have a part of the design and someone could make a claim, but it's appropriate to have these protections.
And these will be during and after the completion of the project.
Yeah.
Correct, Julie?
Alex, would it be during or is it just after when the project is finished? I mean, no,
So
one
the
should
yeah.
be-
And after,
Yeah,
both, right?
So it doesn't matter when if the injury occurs, as long as the design was approved before the injury producing element goes in and allegedly causes injury, it will be immunized. So it doesn't matter if it's during or after, as long as the necessary approvals were made.
Okay. Very good.
If I may, Liz, just one
Yes,
more
please.
question. So,
Please.
under this, is there a sort of, prescribed process that you recommend for like documenting all of those approvals? And do we have that in place, Kat?
So what we intend to do is all construction award resolutions going forward will have a line in there referencing this resolution and that the authority was delegated.
Okay.
And then, I'm in many meetings throughout the design of a project, and that's all, documented in different ways in meeting minutes and whatnot. So I think, if we need to call on it, that's
How
there's a lot of
documenting your approval.
And this reference, the reference to this will continue to appear.
that's the intent. When we get to 7C, because this hadn't been adopted yet, it's written actually for that one specifically to address board approving moves of design, but we can discuss it further when we get to that, so.
All right, very good. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Julie.
Does this need
Thank you,
anything
everyone.
further from us?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. So we need to, this is a resolution, so we need to, have a motion and a second to approve this resolution.
So move.
Okay, so we have a motion from Director Patel. Second,
I will second.
second from Director Covington.
Director Patel,
Yes.
Director Covington,
Yes.
Director Cotton,
Yes.
President Bella.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Alex.
thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you all.
All right. Good. So next we receive a report on the capital improvement program and project prioritization. General Manager, please.
All right, so we prepared quite a few materials here. Really in response to the discussion that we had at the special meeting, nearly a month ago. And you have in front of you, the most updated analysis with updated cost numbers. I'll point out that the, this kind of risk table as well as the CIP table were reprinted, but they're the same as the larger versions you have, they didn't change. So we have basically, 3 elements here. The risk table, so that, lists all of the current, ongoing, or envisioned in, near-term projects, whether it's to be paid from COP funds or our reserves. And we spent time, all of us going through really documenting and highlighting the key project benefits, the risks if we don't do that project, and what are those real consequences or our response if whatever the worst case is happens before that project is completed, as well as our recommended priority for completing these projects. And so, as you can see, it's quite a long list, and we spent quite a bit of time to go through and try to capture as much as we can of those elements. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to read through and understand, and so I would thinking if maybe we just respond to questions rather than walking through.
But walking through will help too, because to do that without a lot of details,
Yeah.
so
Well, I mean, I do think we've talked about a lot of these at different times, the development of these different projects. The first one listed is Folger. And so we spent a lot of time the last special meeting talking about how, the benefits it provides, and really the biggest benefit is if Dairy Lane is ever inaccessible, be it, for the, hours to days during a flood, or potentially longer if the road in is impaired by, liquefaction conditions, in the earthquake and we can't access it, then we'd have access to Folger in Loop. For 101, we've talked about how, that pipe is very vulnerable to really catastrophic failure in an earthquake. And so we'd have to repair not only the pipe, and by doing so, we really have to follow the alignment that's proposed in this project. So we really just have to complete this project, as well as also repair the 101 freeway in a time of true chaos. And so all of the expense and time associated with that would be substantial.
Ken, before you go on, I just wanted to mention that these projects are in the overall capital program also. So it's nothing new here, as Kat was mentioning. We can certainly go through it all, in detail if you'd like, but what we didn't want to do is like pull something in, out of the
That wasn't
blue.
there, correct?
So it's all there, but I think what the board asked for, which I think staff, especially Kat, did a great job, was just kind of put it all in one place, right?
Yeah,
That's why there's no need to go through all the details, just a little recap, a refresher, that's all. You don't need to, because these we've been talking about for a number of years, actually,
Yeah.
some of those projects.
The full CIP was just updated in 2024. So it's fairly fresh, and we're working on updating it again. And then just, as a reminder, I also included the full project list for the CIP that, our needs and identified projects are not short. And so it's our challenge and our duty to figure out how to spend the dollars we have available, wisely, knowing that we have plenty of projects in the wings.
Yeah. Maybe, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jen.
I just had some questions about, maybe I'm gonna start at the back here, and for the San Juan improvements, this is on page 3, item number 2. And I just wanted to ask a little bit about the staff recommended priority, only because I was wondering about that window before paving. If we miss that window, that there's a fairly significant delay. I understand a delay does not mean that there's gonna be some harm done or, anything like that, but it just strikes me that that one perhaps could be at the bottom of the high list or the top of the medium list. I don't know, and I was curious to hear your thoughts. I mean, this is all a judgment call.
Yeah, right, and the risk is that, the risk of the line underneath 101 failing is catastrophic for the freeway, right? Like that's like, okay, we can't do that. But the risk on San Juan is that there's a newly paved road, that residents are there. The town has come in, or the city has come and paved it.
Yeah.
So there, or it could not leak, right? Like, we just don't know. But we know, what we know is that the city is gonna go pave it, right? Like, that's the known part. And so what we've done is coordinate with the city well to get ahead of their paving. And this one, the residents there have endured, I think, about a 3 to 4 year period where the city has put in a sewer project, and then they did another sewer project. And it was planned, it wasn't a surprise, but one was a gravity, so all the sewer went to the bottom of the hill, right? And then there's a pump that pumps it up the hill. So they had to replace both lines. And so they couldn't do it concurrently, so that's why it took a while. So the thought there was, gosh, these neighbors have gone through a lot, and then, so we don't wanna then have their newly street that they're super excited about.
And there have been leaks on
Yes,
this line.
yeah,
and
we've had,
expect-
yeah,
I mean,
thank you.
the line is starting to fail. We'll expect the leaks to continue.
Yeah.
And so
Very
we
good,
still,
yes.
in the fresh road, be repairing those, small patches of leaks as we go.
Great, thank you. And I also had a question about Folger. So I very much understand the rationale for setting up Folger so that we can have continuity of service in the case of another flood, a dairy, or an earthquake. So I'm not, the rationale I understand. My question, really, this is for the staff, I believe, is there a solution that's less than $6.8 million, like by having some equipment up there? You know what I mean? It might not be perfect solution, but like a good enough. And normally I would have pressed back. It's merely that when I saw the things that might have to be pushed off, I was concerned about spending the money to really redo Folger. And it will be beautiful. Like I love all the things that it will have there. So I'm not, I'm not against how it's been laid out.
You mean Folger or Dairy Lane?
Folger, I'm talking about Folger. Dairy Lane, I'm on board with. I understand the absolute need for the employees to have a workable situation, and they've put up with a lot for a long time now, so.
We had a, like, abbreviated couple of versions of Folger in here.
So we initially, when after the flood happened, we brought Nolan Tam on, and by the way, Tom Beal from Nolan Tam is here to answer questions related to the building projects as well. But initially, our plan was to move ahead and get dairy set up, but knowing that it has its challenges with its location, and we started looking at how to use Folger better. And initial plans were, okay, this is a great place. We can have kind of wet weather operations where we stage equipment and vehicles there, things that if we can't access Dairy Lane for a period, we can access them there. Not full operations, but key items. And that was the original thinking, and I do think it is a very appropriate approach. There are some risks to that in that building has not been seismically retrofit. And so if you have vehicles and equipment in that bottom story of the building, there is a large enough earthquake, there's chances that will be damaged or inaccessible too. We didn't go so far as to really study and get costs on things like putting a smaller kind of shed that doesn't necessarily need building permit approval or other things like that as additional storage. There's other, if we spend the time, we could probably come up with other modified plans. There are challenges which Tom can speak to if we try to do just a small portion, like only put the prefab building up, the shop building, or only do the seismic retrofit of the existing building, where that cascades because the city has quite a few requirements that they'll have us do if we just touch the property. But like I said, we haven't, that's not an easy question to answer, so we haven't gone down the path to really study and talk about the city about all of those possible scenarios. But there are things that could be considered. And like I said, that was the original plan, to move ahead with dairy and then figure out how to use Folger better.
The Folger building is set up, it's called a soft story, which
Yeah.
the bottom garages are so open that the building will just kind of collapse on itself. This happened in the Marina District after the earthquake in 1989, where all the garages, it basically just pancakes the garages. And so our building there is very susceptible to that kind of a damage after an earthquake. So we can certainly store things there, like use the land to store things, but the building itself, we want to make sure we have access to whatever we store up there after an earthquake, and it may not. We know it's susceptible, right? We know the risk.
We could put vehicles there. Certainly, if we stored more equipment there, we want to install video cameras because we don't currently have those. There's some improvements we want to do, regardless if we're using that in a different way. Stormwater management should be improved on that site.
Just to clarify, the current design you feel is sufficient if there was an earthquake
Absolutely.
in Folger?
Yes, so what's before you is a full upgrade and redo of the site. So it would absolutely address the seismic concerns and storage concerns and yeah, yes.
This question might be for Chairman Bella. Because this rolls back to some history, I'm just trying to understand, like, all of these projects look great and worthwhile. And in the past, how has the board thought about funding over a period of time? Like, you don't want to be taking out another COP every year. We just can't do that. It's not fair to the current ratepayers for what future ratepayers, you know, and so on. But is there sort of a staged approach that's already been discussed amongst the board that I'm just doing a little catch up on?
Sure, absolutely. So don't forget that question, okay, because I'm gonna make a couple of statements, we're gonna get into a conversation, hopefully we'll answer that question.
Okay, great.
So what I was thinking, Jubin and Kat, is that everything that we have here, we've been talking about, except for many years, except Folger and the other stuff that we have here, they've been there for a long time. We went for outside funding because of all the other projects. These two are the ones that came in later on. Right?
In 2016,
COP.
you went, the 2016 COP,
That was,
you went for a suite of projects. And then when we went for the 2025 suite, it was after the flood. It was with both Dairy Lane and Folger envisioned. Actually, all of the projects that are currently envisioned for the COP, those were the ones that went into our rate study and the COP, the
correct.
2025.
In 2025.
So
Yeah.
to answer partially your question, before, the first COP was, what year? Was it 2016?
16?
The 16. So before that, we have never done that before. That was the first time ever that we went for. It was always, however, some people say, oh my God, that was so great. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe we're kicking that can down the road for way too long, to the point where we got to a point when we started analyzing and we had the whole study of the entire system. Remember that? We were
Yes.
finding a lot of different areas that we were weak at, and we go like, we should have been doing that. It's great if you can pay for every project or every program that you have, capital that you have with the money that you have with PayGo. That would be great if you can do that.
Yes.
But we were not maybe doing that analysis as deep as we should have. And then we came to a point where we said, you know what? In order to do all of this, we're gonna have to go outside and get funding and all of that. So that was part of the reasoning why we came up with this list at the time, because this is an older list. And then as both the general manager and Jubin said, and we came back to the issue of these two buildings and we went back for that. So is it safe to assume that, without going through a lot of details, a lot of discussions, that basically if we choose to do certain projects, we're not gonna have enough money to do the other stuff that we said we're going to do. Is that correct? Is that
Well,
correct
so
statement?
if you want, we can move, I mean, that'd be a good segue to move into the financial analysis that we have here.
And Director Vella, just to clarify, Sarah had a big part in this also, and she's online, I know, not physically, but
Yes.
Thank
Sorry,
you, Sarah. We're grateful to
Thank
as
you,
well.
Jubin.
They're never forgotten. They're never forgotten.
Feel free to jump in.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
I'm here.
And I mean, one thing I just wanted to say is, like, to your point, Director Patel, this really is kind of the art and the challenge of governance. Sure, it'd be great if we could have infinite budget and hire 20 more staff and do all of these projects in the next 5 years. I mean, the whole long list, but it's a balance, so.
and a crystal ball to tell us what the war and oil prices and the tariffs, and now we're getting refunds on tariff, right? Like the crystal ball of the cost, that's what we really struggle with, because we bring data before you and we go get a loan, we get a COP, and all of a sudden all these other things happen, and so
It's
But we've really, I think this board and this district in general has been really good as far as just talking through it, right? And really doing these kind of analysis and really brainstorming on a good path forward for the ratepayers at the end of the day.
Correct,
Yeah.
but that is why we have the risk analysis. That's why we do it, okay, because, you know, you have to bring everything to why are we here? We're here to deliver water at the most efficient and least expensive way. That's what we're here for. So, you know, there are certain aspects that we have, like the PAN, for example, which I agree, it's a very, very high risk. But do I have the crystal ball that thing could stay the way it is forever? But if it's going to happen, something would happen, it is a high risk. So, you know, would I vote for the Folger property above the PAM? I don't think so, you know, I don't think so. So,
Yeah, and that's exactly why we're having this discussion, is we saw the numbers changing. We don't have all numbers updated, but we see them moving literally on a day-by-day basis. That is why we have an updated report here, and the numbers actually, we've got further analysis from OCMI today, so the, you know, mark on Dairy Lane has moved even further. So what personally, what I really don't want to see happen is we make a decision now unaware of the cascading effects and, for example, find ourselves unable to do Dairy Lane or find ourselves unable to do 101. And so that's why we're walking through this. So if we start with on page 2 of the staff report, the chart at the bottom there, where it's COP fund initial plan at funding. So these are the costs that we envisioned when we did the rate study in 2024, and then the COP issuance. And in it, we included that 5.1 million that was unallocated. It was, you know, it could absorb costs if costs grow on the other projects, or it could be used for other projects that were slightly lower priority than these really high priority ones. To the next page, you have that same chart with the current costs, including Dairy Lane, which now has gone up a bit, and I need to further digest those. But so basically, that unallocated amount that's been used up. That's our cushion. That's our buffer for all the project increases that we've seen so far. And this analysis, it's a very small buffer, right?
Really feels,
Comparison
it
to-
makes me nervous.
yeah, I was looking at it going,
and if I read the numbers that came in this morning correctly, and maybe Sarah's had a chance to digest it, but I haven't, I think that buffer's gone. Okay, that little. So, but and so these bar charts at the top, those are $2026. That when we actually really look at our funding mechanisms, it gets quite complicated quite fast, because you throw in every year you delay a project, there's a level of cost escalation. That's, you know, our crystal ball is telling us what that number is, and we have 4% in here, and you tell me if 4% straight cost escalation is right for the next 5 years. I don't know, right? We also have, because what we care about is how much money we have in the bank. Are we between those reserve targets that the board's adopted? That's where we want to be. And, you know, obviously those revenues come in at a different pace. Our rates, we project increasing at a different pace, all of that. So that's why we model it. And then once you look at that, you know, $400,000 buffer in this chart actually becomes a $1.3 million deficit when you throw that escalation all in there. And so we'd essentially be borrowing $1.3 million in reserves. I will point out that what this model doesn't assume is it assumes that there is no capacity charge fees that come in. It doesn't assume that we're successful in getting any grant money. It doesn't assume that we raise rates again, which is a tool that the board always has, and will, you know, at the end of our period here, I want to say 2029 is when we are due to do our next rate study. So, you know, those are other knobs that the board has, and one could always do an earlier rate study if they felt the need. But those are things that could affect this picture, but this is what we know now.
So my takeaway from what you just said is that this is conservative. It does not include cash that we can't forecast in the way we could forecast. We have this many rate users. This is how much water they used last year. This is how much they'll pay for it this year, which is sort of a reasonable assumption of things that we know.
And
Grants are like, cool, that's, you know,
Exactly.
manna from heaven if it falls on us, but I don't wanna bake that in here. That's too terrifying.
exactly. We don't plan for luck. We hope for luck, we don't plan for luck.
Yeah.
Luck and development, that's the other key is how much development's coming in, how much revenue we get from development. So those are the two that Pat was mentioning are not in
Yeah.
there, so.
And sorry, I had a thought and I lost it. Hopefully it'll come back. But because you know, so the next scenario, because I think the board asked to see a few scenarios, right? So the next scenario is, okay, everything that's unbid is an unknown cost. Folger is the only cost we truly know at this
Correct.
stage because we have the real full cost from the contractor. And even that, you know, certainly has a contingency and all of that, but we believe those costs. So the next scenario is if you take all of those projects that haven't been bid yet and assume they go up 10%. Well, in $2026, then you have a $2.3 million shortfall. And then when you model that, it results in a shortfall of about $3.9 million in reserves. And that's just the project, each project going up 10% other than Folger. And I did remember the thought I had. So the other piece is, you know, this also assumes a very minimal increase in water demand, so increase of usage by our customers, but of course there's factors that affect that. We have very wet years, our water demand and usage goes down. If we have a dry year, the water usage goes up. If we have a dry year where there's also discussion of drought, our demand comes down. The good news when that happens is we do have rate stabilization, drought stabilization factors that we can temporarily adjust rates to account for that. Of course, that means telling the customers we're adjusting rates to account for that, but we do have a tool there. So that's also baked into all of the, you know, layer upon layer of assumptions. So in the scenario of just projects go up 10%, you do have a much more significant shortfall that you're trying to make up with luck or otherwise. And then the final scenario on the next page assumes the unbid projects cost increase at different rates. So Dairy Lane, obviously very material heavy, very diverse material, a lot of probably imported materials, a lot of transportation of those materials, all of the unknowns, other things. So what if that project goes up by 15%? We also look at Dakota tank, which is 2 giant steel tanks. All of that steel cost is very price sensitive to oil prices. And whether it's, you know, just in the making of the steel as well as the transportation of steel, it's massive. So let's just assume 25% on that one. And then undercrossing, which has, you know, less of those issues, assume 10%. So in that picture, again, there's a more significant shortfall that would happen. Now, this model, and you know, kind of chicken and egg, which item do we discuss first? Later, when we talk about the same modeling that we're done for purposes of the rate increase we're proposing, in here, even in that case, which is really is the same as the first one we looked at, we have that shortfall shown, or not shortfall beneath the operating reserves in 2030, and that's driven by the Hallmark project. So for planning purposes, we're assuming that we replace both Hallmark tanks fully at the same time in 2030. That is a knob that we do have to turn. We have some options where, you know, that's obviously the story we're putting out when we're asking for grants, hoping again for the luck. But since we do have that knob to turn, one option that we are considering and might very well end up recommending in the end is what if we replace one tank in the near term and simply recoat the other tank and then, down the line, replace the second tank. So the next three sets of the line charts here show that scenario where we only replace one Hallmark tank in this time frame under those three cost inflation scenarios. So you can see that when we have that knob to turn, the shortfall is less. One might be more comfortable assuming we get the capacity charges in from new development and other things. And also knowing that we can delay the timing, because we talked last meeting about, well, what of the PAYGO projects would we delay and what would that look like? Well, Hallmark is the biggest knob to turn. The others, we could also adjust the timing, but that's going to give us the biggest bang. So,
And this scenario with the one Hallmark tank, this is based on the current estimate, so it's actually the estimate that is the most quote unquote favorable, just because it doesn't, and I understand, otherwise you'd have like infinite number of scenarios. So this is perfectly reasonable to not have built in any of the potential cost increases, but I look at this one Hallmark tank and think, well, yeah, that sounds like a great plan, and I think we would be a little unwise to assume that all the unbid projects will come in where we're thinking, and that there'll be no increases anywhere else in projects that can't be done in a month. Like they can't be. So, you buy the materials and pay for them and the contractor's gonna pass that on. So I feel like taking out one Hallmark tank puts us in a better situation, but I don't really feel like it's gonna get us within the range of reserves that we are aiming for. That's how I read this information. Do you disagree, Kat?
my crystal ball is cloudy.
It's cloudy, fair enough.
But, and Jubin and I debated this, and Sarah as well. Sorry, Sarah.
No, it's okay. I'll
In
jump
front
in.
of me.
Just the dairy lane.
We're gonna turn over to you, Sarah, for the answers after this.
Yes.
Okay?
That's the answer.
Well, I can give you one clear answer, and well, it's not bid yet, but the Dairy Lane current cost estimates that have been peer reviewed that came through today were 16.7 million.
It's about 1 million higher than was modeled here. So, okay.
And that's still,
You said
that's
16?
still a moving target anyway.
16.
Yeah.
16.7.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah. But our goal was really to give kind of a range of potential.
Yeah.
And to talk about what tools we have, whatever path we go down. We do have options. We're not without options. But we'll have hard decisions about whether they're good options or not. Just as we're having this conversation now.
So, yeah, so I mean, clearly there's a lot of thought and a lot of brain work that was done to get to this, and I personally, and I'm sure all the board members appreciate that, Sarah, Jubin, and you, and all your staff.
Miko too,
So,
Mhm.
but she can't wait for James to come back now.
yeah.
Take over the pod.
So we could keep on talking about what ifs here till 1 o'clock this morning, and we're still being probably at the same spot. What I am hoping to achieve is based on the hours that were spent on these, that we would have some kind of at least a staff recommendation. The staff would probably recommend that based on all the things considered, all the money in place, all the inflation material, and knowing that none of these projects are secured except for Folger. Folger is the only known quantity. Everything else is just up there, up in the air. So based on that, staff would recommend that we'll do this first, we'll think about these, and we'll just forget about these for now. Not knowing, and we didn't have to bite the bullet, because Juba doesn't have a crystal ball and yours is
Yeah.
cloudy. So, and, you know, we'll see if at least we're in the ballpark between us. Yeah.
The unfortunate reality that I wish we could change is that to not, you know, I'm not saying not do Folger, but even to put it on hold until we get the other projects done. Dairy Lane, because the timing, because we had put that on pause for so long, the construction of Dairy Lane is still quite a ways out.
Okay, can I stop you for 1 second?
So
Okay,
I
so.
want to acknowledge that.
So, okay, so the offset to that is that if we put Folger, then Folger would no longer be a known cost.
Yeah, so
Because you cannot tell the contractor.
you can't honor
So then Folger is gonna go into the mix of fluctuating again.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna come out the same.
No,
Guaranteed.
it will
It will
increase.
be higher.
They
That's
it
right.
always
And
increases.
your crystal ball is clear on that.
That one is very.
Yeah.
Why do we agree?
We're not gonna be in a deflationary.
So, please, yeah, continue.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make point that everybody does not lose sight of the fact that
Yeah,
we lose that one
Yeah.
known factor, we
Yeah.
lost it.
The cost and a good contractor.
Correct.
We actually are very fortunate to have a good contractor.
Correct. Well, the contractor may come back, you know, we may still have the same one, maybe. But
The
the
cost
cost
is
is gonna
for
be
sure.
different. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just
I
an
want a
engineer,
time
don't look at me.
I want a time machine, not a crystal ball, is what I want. Well, I mean, the whole reason I called you, Louis, before the March meeting was because I didn't feel good with the financial picture moving ahead with Folger right now for the benefit again. It gives us benefit, but not enough benefit compared to the others. After doing the financial analysis and running these and other scenarios as well, I did land on being pretty neutral because we do have those options where, you know, if the board is aware and the board commits to doing all of these projects and prioritizing them, we can make it happen. It might mean increasing rates, it might be other hard conversations, but they could be done. So it's not, I wouldn't call it the end of the world if we did Folger right now. A month ago, I was worried it was the end of the world. So I hate to pull Folger after all the work that we put in it and the, you know, potentially lose goodwill of the contractor and all of that. But it would be a more comfortable in the financial picture if we put it on hold, revisioned it as a smaller project, which is takes work to do, but I think we would be okay accepting it too.
Sarah.
That's interesting to hear. I think, you know, as far as the operations staff goes, I don't know that they were looking forward to Folger, but they're looking forward to dairy, and I don't think that they quite understood, and I can empathize with the point of view, which is we're spending close to $7 million on a building that we're not going to occupy. And it is going to take a lot of our resources. We have a lot of operations projects also that are going to be very intensive over the next couple of years, just in the regular operating budget. And I know that they just want to be set up as well as they possibly can to be able to do those. And I know that I agree with Kat, we could make this happen. And it would be a lot of work. So, which nobody is shying away from. But I also, you know, and it will get more expensive. Sorry, I'm kind of thinking out loud right here, but up until hearing Kat say that, I was honestly thinking that we should probably do the other projects first and come back to Folger. Although I hadn't fully thought out about the the fact that I mean, obviously it's going to go up. That's what happened to Coven, right? It was high at the time. We put it off and now it's way higher. It's not going to get cheaper in the future. So I have to totally respect that's a hard decision. And that's why we are bringing it to you guys.
We'll make it, but
Yeah.
you don't wanna make it in a rush or in a vacuum either, okay?
Yeah.
So, Juben, you wanna chime in a little bit
No.
on this? or-
If you're asking for my opinion, if I was in your,
Well, I
in the
see
board
your
shoes,
fingerprints on the document too, so-
I've worked with you enough, Louis, I'll give you my opinion.
You were gonna give it to me
so,
anyway,
You asked for it, I'll give it to you. We have to do the Coven, we have to do State Route 101. No matter what the bids come in at, we gotta do those projects. Like the Coven, the tank is falling down because we didn't do it last, like, literally it's gonna fall down. So no matter what bids come in, we're not gonna have the luxury of Folger, where we can sit here and say, hey, maybe we should do it, maybe we should, we have to do it. And so. If you're asking for my personal opinion, I would kick Folger, and if we have the money, let's do it later. Because the other projects, there is no question we have to do it. But I'm glad I'm not making the decision, so.
fair enough, I appreciate that, so.
Any of
Please,
the
I'd
other
like to turn over
projects,
to,
all of the other projects will increase in cost too. So to me, the fact that Folger is gonna increase in cost is net neutral. We have a giant
We
list
have,
of
we have,
things.
we have the bid now, though, as.
I know we have, yes, yeah.
we haven't locked in. so-
I understand, but a new project that's bid today, if we put that one, I mean,
But
if we
we
had
all
bid,
heard about the expression, a bird in the hand, this bird is in our hand.
it is in our hands.
So we're
It
gonna let
is.
it go.
It is, it
It's the only
is.
discretionary bird.
Yes.
The other ones we need.
Yeah, Stephen, I mean, I hear you, cause I had marked exactly Jacob and I'm like, must do, like, I just
Yeah,
can't see
yeah.
not.
Understood.
Whatever
we have-
the bids are that come in, I'm sorry I mean, we'll do our best to give you what our estimates are, but whatever bids that come in, we have to do those projects. State Route 101, we have,
Right.
Yeah.
dairy, we have to do those.
I don't think you're gonna have an argument here. Chuck, anything?
I appreciate everybody's comments. Sometimes your questions are asked as they're forming in my head as well. So to me, some of the biggest movers are these projects and when they were identified. I mean, we're looking at 11 years of aging that, has gone on, particularly for the 101 and the Decoven tank. And we cannot risk a catastrophic incident cutting the legs out from under us for those. I'm not saying these others are luxuries. But I think this is the problem when we have just too many things we have to get off our plate. I think we can't forget things that were on our plate years ago that seem like, well, maybe they're not as big or important, but they keep aging. And in particular, the 101 makes me extremely nervous if that catastrophic event were to take place. I can't imagine what this organization would have to face to rectify that and how much resources, time, energy, you name it, to deal with that. So I agree with you 100% that those have to be done. I also, I like having a bird in the hand and knowing what my reality is, that we can't have all of it. And so we have to prioritize this, so.
Good, appreciate
That's
that.
where
Mr. Covington, any last words on this?
On the Folger property, we own that property, right?
Yeah.
How can we use it without doing any of the improvements to it? How could it be useful to us?
We're currently using
We
it
are
as
using it
storage.
now, yeah.
We can continue to use it as storage, being thoughtful and mindful of what we put in that bottom floor. We can also look at putting more of a shed that does, whatever size doesn't require a building permit. And, the additional work that would trigger, we could do that in a shorter term. Tom, you're on if you've thought about this a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, from a high level, I agree. Folger's the easiest thing to flick off of your plate. You can extend the permit. I'm not sure how long, but probably at least 6 months or a year. I know that doesn't really help you, but I think you could look into trying to preserve the work that's been done to date. If funds become available that you can do it. I have thought about trying to find a project that's smaller, but I think probably the most we can hope for is to save $2 or $3 million. Once we touch the site, you're into a lot of the site improvements that the city's obligating you to do. So it's really, I think it's best, not touched at all, or like you said, Kat, just minimal work that, maintains your ability to utilize the site, at least in a storage capacity. I'm happy to answer any other questions about Dairy Lane or the costs, but I think I'm kind of in agreement with Juban that given what's been presented here, even though obviously the design team has an investment in it, you have a serious investment in this up to now. It seems like taking Folger out is the best course of action.
To Tom, my
Sarah.
point,
Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out one other thing as far as using the property. We will have to use the property when our staff needs to sort of not be in the way at Dairy, right? Like they're all going to have to work at Folger unless we figure something else out, like a different location. But it's usable, but it's not, entirely without risk if we're worried about the earthquake thing, right? But our staff will have to occupy the building.
I have a comment about that, Sarah. I mean, two-story wood frame buildings, particularly one with a huge retaining wall in the back of it. It is technically a soft story, but famous last words, but the idea that this building might collapse, it would be a really, really big earthquake. It's just, the two-story wood frame buildings perform really well. I mean, the evidence is really clear from particularly the Los Angeles earthquake that, I think the chances that it's going to collapse and be unusable are really low. I don't think I would, put any people in the bottom floor, but otherwise, I think you're probably pretty safe.
So then it would be usable. We would be using it, and as long as we're comfortable with that, we could think about how else we could use it if we wanted to figure out how to use it as an EOC. We could still do that to a degree.
and if we don't approve the Folger project going forward, I would recommend that we take some time to explore those smaller scale options. Like I mentioned, I do think we should look at improving stormwater drainage. That's been kind of a known issue with the site for a while. But we should look at, what's a minimal, much smaller project to do at Folger, and those, get more creative. And to Tom's point earlier, all of those plans that we've developed and spent the time and money on, none of that's wasted. Those still are good and valid and can always be taken off the shelf, modified, done fully later, whatever the desire is. Sarah, said the plan was while we do construction at Dairy for operations staff and us, admin staff also to move there. Well, if we don't do that, admin staff can continue to stay here, leased space. We could move operations to Folger. We could also look to see if there's a smaller, facility for lease as well. I mean, those are all, it's a lot easier to lease space in this area, industrial space in this area than it is to purchase it. Purchase it is quite expensive, but there are some options, and we know from our attendance at the HIA, we know quite a few of those property owners as well,
Absolutely.
who support the
They
district.
would love to work with us, yeah.
Yeah, as well as the warehouse, kind of immediately kind of catty corner to Dairy Lane. Actually, that warehouse is currently empty. We haven't approached the landlord, but if it remains empty, I would assume.
I just want to say, I agree with that. I don't think that this was money or time wasted at all. I think it is a great idea for district resiliency in the face of disasters, which we have already faced. This is really just a conversation about prioritization in the current circumstances that we're facing with rising costs and sort of unknown inflation.
Well, even,
That's what
Yeah.
it comes down to.
Go ahead.
in my opinion, and again, kind of trailing on what Tom said, if we had not going to, a catastrophic quake, let's say, something that would potentially cause some damage to Folger, we know it's going to be a horrific event on the under 101 crossing. So I would rather put my chips on fixing that than to worry about Folger pancaking, given the structure's current integrity and the way it's built, that loss, assuming it does pancake, is nothing compared to what we would face with 101.
Yeah. It is sad that sometimes we will make decisions based on what's worse, what's the worst of the worst. But the way I look at it is that, you know, we are here to deliver water to our constituents. And if something happens in a tank, in a distribution system, as we'll have difficulty delivering that water, people are not going to say, oh my God, look what happened, they didn't build Folger. They're not gonna do that, you know?
Exactly.
Because with Folger, and I hate to say this because we've worked so hard on this Folger, we brought it all the way to conclusion and almost ready for award. And here we are saying like, you know, wait a minute, we're pulling the brakes on it. So you hate to do that for anything that you do when you bring it all to fruition and then all of a sudden you change your mind. But then you start looking at what it is that you're not going to be able to do. If we do that, then you start thinking differently.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my guiding principle. I know I heard everybody out there and you know, I think sadly, but the writing is on the wall, that Folger is gonna have to be placed on the back burner for now. So I came with kind of that frame of mind, but I said, no, I don't wanna make a decision, I wanna hear everybody first. But direction is pretty clear. So,
Director Vella, and this is not an action for today's meeting and maybe not even within the next 6 months. But at some point, I would like to have a discussion as a board with the entire list of projects, which I know you have done a tremendous amount of work to look at all of the infrastructure and sort of prioritizing when it needs to be done. And even though we may not be the directors here for implementation of a plan, I'd like us to sketch out like, hey, to get all of this done, we'd need 2 more COPs of this size and a rate increase. Okay, in the next 10 years, let's do one of them and knock this stuff off. And maybe the next directors come in and go, I want to redo this, I want to rejigger this plan. But I feel like we're missing sort of at this moment, we're not actually adjusting a long-range plan. We're adjusting okay, these were the immediate things, and that's good to do, and I'm completely comfortable with it, but and as I said, not trying to get us to do that today. It's just.
and there's, you know, first of all, to your point, there's no guarantee that anybody's gonna be here for the next project.
No,
There's no guarantee
exactly.
of that. And secondly, is that, you know, when you do these things, there's another element that keeps on coming, it's time. The element of time.
Yeah.
You know, because time is a huge portion of the equation, you know, so this, what's gonna need to happen will have to happen at some point. Somebody, maybe not us, but somebody will have to deal with that later on, but it could be within, like Tom was saying, maybe we'll delay for 6 months. I don't think it's enough, a year, maybe, you know, maybe a little longer, who knows, you know?
Yeah.
But it's gonna be that element of time and these things will happen, and whatever we have here, it was flagged out and it was pointed out because based on the survey that we did on all our infrastructure and all our distribution system, it just rose to the surface. And we said, these are the issues.
So we're, Oh, sorry,
Good part.
maybe we're gonna say the
We were
same
saying the
thing,
same
but, we're on a cycle to update the capital program. And so the list you were talking about, Director Patel, that's slated to come back in June. So every 2 years or so, we update our capital program. And, that has the master list, but it also has a reprioritization based on staff experience so that's slated to come back this June anyway. So that's a great time to look at the overall list and see what the needs of the district are. We certainly can give the list and then the funding is the other side of it, right? But there's never a shortage of projects, for sure.
No,
And the other one thing that I want us, all of us, everybody here, including you guys, not to lose sight of is our staff. Because our staff do deserve to have the best possible place for them to operate from, so.
And that's why I have absolutely no hesitation about dairy, even though I had no hand in planning or the scope or anything like that. It's, to me, that's a must do. I can't, at no point did I say, oh, let's shrink it or let's this, no, I can't, no. Our
Exactly.
staff have to come first on that. And I know we've shorted them a little bit with the decision around Folger. And there'll have to be some accommodations made, especially for the bunk facility now. And, there's some things that were envisioned there that are gonna have to be rejiggered and there'll be costs associated. But I agree, staff, top of the list, or this is non-functional, so.
So,
The one thing I was going to add is just that this district has evolved their CIP planning so much. It was alluded to, but really, a couple of GMs ago, their, maintenance and pipe replacement was really kind of reactionary and very, very minimal. And that's why they found themselves so far behind. And that's when, Jubin's team was brought on and they did the first CIP for the district and developed the
2015,
initial list, which has grown and evolved. And now we're evolving into doing, 5 to 10 year planning. Which once you start doing that 5 to 10 year planning, you have the benefit of being able to position and strategize for grant funding. So that hasn't historically been done, but now we're working towards that. It doesn't happen instantly, but we're working towards that, so.
and even with that, I mean, surprise never cease to face us,
Yeah, floods and.
Yeah,
No, even main breaks, that we think we plan, but in the past, and Kat is correct, in the past, surprises were coming in a lot more frequently.
Well, aging on this
Because
list of
we're reactionary, yeah. Go ahead.
is, I think we're gonna see more surprises coming when you
Yeah,
look at stuff from the thirties and forties and you're like, I mean, this really shocked me, frankly, when I saw that. I was really surprised. And so, yeah, we're always gonna have more.
Okay.
The positives are, we have, let's not, I do wanna share because the board wasn't. So there are we've knocked out some really significant high-risk projects. Such as the line on El Camino, all the way from Ralston to our service area boundary. That was a very high risk, and we've had multiple breaks on that where we shut down El Camino. Not as bad as, State Route 101, but so we were able to knock that out, Old County Road, another high risk.
Absolutely.
We were able to, so we're going through the really high risk projects, right? And we're pretty close. We got, 2 or 3, and then the flood obviously happened and Dairy Lane got, but we're making some good. I know it doesn't not sound like it, but we're making some, we are knocking a few off the list. So.
Absolutely, and I wanna just thank Kat, you, Jubin, Sarah, all of you for having the foresight to do the survey. The survey was baseline. Without the survey, you got no idea where you are. And then for having an every 2 year update so that we can reprioritize, look at where we are budget wise and deal with it. So I'm not displeased with where we are. And this tremendous amount of work you did, it certainly helped me to feel more comfortable about a decision. And all this work is not for nothing because these projects aren't going away. So you don't have to repeat all that work that you put in. Hopefully you can just be like, here it is again.
Okay, Ms. GM, so
All right.
it's not a decision made by a single person. Okay,
There, yeah.
everybody's fingerprints is on.
Document the blame, we can all
On the
share
dagger.
the video, document it. So there's no action on 7B, but 7C, there is the action item on Folger.
Alright, so 7C will be,
Okay, you're ready.
what do we do with that one? We'll postpone it, we'll table it.
I would
You
suggest,
reject it.
and Julie would correct me, but that you would want to call a vote, and if the consensus is to not approve the contract, then yeah, that is what we communicate to the contractor.
I mean,
Okay.
there's a couple things you could do. You could do that. You know, you could vote, you could remove it from the agenda. Right, because you don't have to put it on your agenda, so you could just take it off and not consider the award of contract, and the agency has the right, you know, to not move forward with any contract that it bids out. So you have options.
Good, so as chair, my preference would be to remove it actually from the agenda instead of taking a vote. And for two reasons. Number one, you know, taking a vote on something that we brought it up to this doesn't look good. And secondly is, you know, we do have 20% of the board missing, so.
Yeah.
I think it will be respectful to everybody, including the contractor, that we don't take a vote against something that,
Yeah,
you know, he was backing off. That's not professional, I don't think.
I will add on this item, I did reach out to Vice President Zuka and asked if he had anything he wanted me to share with the rest of the board at the meeting. And he said, yes, Italy is great.
It's fine,
But
they
I
have,
did
should we call him? It's,
Some
And then if you're gonna be like that, we'll call him at 4 o'clock in the morning
Yeah.
and wake him up.
It's pretty.
He won't sleep.
We clearly answered all of his questions.
All right, very good. So we'll move on to item 7D. Allison, are you good with progress of things?
Yes,
Excellent.
I didn't know I had a choice. Let's make it snappy.
Just don't wanna rush. I wanna make sure that you are with us, that's all. All right, then. And she said she is. Good. Good.
Okay.
This one,
Well-
or, so, Sarah, yeah.
I can just introduce it, and I'll probably just pass it to you, Juven, for the majority of the explanation. But we're asking for an increase in the contingency to our Exborn and West Belmont contract for the recoating of the tanks. Once they got into doing the sandblasting, it revealed some significant corrosion on the existing rafter beams. All of them needed significant repair or replacement. Both options were looked at and discussed with all the engineers and the designers and the contractor, and we're recommending to move forward with full rafter replacement. So an additional contingency of $202,670, which increases the contingency to $286,440 and brings the total contract cost from $921,470 to $1.124 million and some change. So yeah, I think Juven could probably, I think there's a memo that you put together. If you wanted to talk about it a little bit more. Great.
Perfect. So, first of all, I wanted to just say that this is not how we operate CIPs, right? Like, we don't want to come to the board and ask for more money. Like, that's not normal course for us, this district. And I actually had to go back because I don't ever remember doing this, coming to the board and asking for more money on a contingency. And I've been your district engineer for 15 years, going on 16, and we've never done it. So this is the first time that something like this, but it happens, right? Like stuff like this in construction, when you're doing a remodel, when you're doing an upgrade, unfortunately, sometimes something like this happens. So I explained it at the last board meeting, just to kind of give a heads up as far as I didn't have the exact costs, but, essentially when they sandblasted and took the layer of the coating off, we found a tremendous amount of, corrosion behind it. And it was just not visible when the coating, the thick coating was on there. At the time when the board packet went out, we weren't quite done with the memo that you have in front of you. The memo is still a draft because I really want to get a little bit more from our coding consultant, as far as like why this happened. So he gave us a verbal, he did the inspection, he gave us a verbal, but I really want a memo, an analysis done. We just didn't have time for it. Time is the essence on this, and again, I don't usually say that. We want to make sure we do things correctly, but we don't want this tank offline during the hot season. We need to replace this, we need to get this tank back into service. So we felt, staff, the most expedited fashion was to get the structural engineer up there, which we talked about and we did. We wanted to look at the different options. So the do nothing option, the replacement option, or the retrofit option. Those are the three that we looked at. So the memo that's before you, and I'm sorry, it wasn't ready for the board packet, but we looked at those three options. We looked at not just the contractor cost, we looked at the delivery cost, like, or the installation time, I should say, I'm sorry, not the cost, but how long it was gonna take to put all this together, because that has a dollar amount, and that equates to inspection costs. So we kind of looked at all three of those put together. And, we landed on the cleanest, less risk. The other portion that we looked at was the risk. Even if we retrofit, they could still, go up there and sandblast and start finding stuff. So the risk as far as replacing it would just made a heck of a lot more sense. And it was faster. So that's what we directed the contractor to do. And again, we don't like doing that without, of this size, without getting consensus from the board, but that's why we kind of brought it up just as a preliminary, but time was the essence in this. And so this is a little bit definitely different than what we typically do. We bring change orders to the board, we talk about it, we approve it, but in this case, time was the essence. And so before you is the contingency increase. By doing that, then the change order can be executed and the project, will move forward. I could tell you as far as like what happened, which is in the memo again, there's a section in there. Essentially, when this tank was built 20 years ago, the coating was not placed properly. This is from the very start. This is something like this doesn't happen overnight. And as far as lessons learned or making sure this doesn't happen, we have a coating inspector. I'm not sure if there was a coating inspector used 20 years ago. And it's all done within a controlled environment. So the temperature, the humidity, all those things are measured before coating goes in. And the most important thing is we have a 2-year warranty. So at that point, our coating inspector will go up, climb the ladder, start poking holes at these coatings, which they do, at the 2-year mark. And that's when you know if it's failing or not, because you'll be able to peel it off if it is. I know I'm throwing a lot out there, but it's,
It's good. Your memo actually was really clear, and my question about the warranty, and you've answered it. So thank you.
Yeah.
It's great.
Any questions, John? We're good?
No, I like the option.
Everything good. So I can tell you that, without certainty, obviously, because I wasn't out there, but probably 20 years ago, it was installed according to whatever standards they had and you are probably correct. I don't know if there was a coating inspector at the time that were used, but I could guarantee you that tank was installed the way normally tanks were being installed up and down the peninsula. But we learn sometimes from things that we didn't know that there was a better way how to do it at the time, but now we learn from that. But my question, Juben, is, so this is the same contractor that was doing the sandblasting, right? And then he found the corrosion underneath the coating, right?
yes.
Is it the same contractor who is suggesting to replace the rafters? The same one?
We got proposals from the contractor to replace it or repair it. So we got both estimates.
I understand that from here. So my question would be, in situations like this, how do you compare a cost with, like if you go with an RFQ or RFP, then you have different people bidding for the same thing. How do you know that it gave you a low price, a fair price, or a high price?
So hold that thought for a second. That I have an answer for that, but I want to go back to something you said earlier in that the tank was installed per the specs 20 years ago.
Probably, yeah.
And it was. If it was, the coating would not have failed like this. What happened was the coating was specified correctly by the designer or whoever. What happened where the failure occurred was the coating contractor did not apply or follow the specifications.
Exactly. And there was no inspector probably, so he
you know,
got away with it.
the temperature was high or the humidity. So because a 20-year-old tank should not fail like this. That's the point. So I think the failure where it occurred, and we'll dive into a little bit more with the coating inspector and get a full analysis, but it was a failure on the application by the contractor. It was the right coating, like the material and the millimeters and stuff. It was just the it just didn't adhere to the metal. So going back,
which is irritating because I'm sure good money were paid at the time. For,
it's just
you don't install, appliances like that, appurtenances like that for 20 years. Those are things that you do it for 50 plus.
So the getting back to the cost question, so the proposal that the contractor provided, and I don't know if it's in, it is, so if we go, if you can you scroll down, Allison, to a few pages, if you keep going, one more. So they give us a cost, one more page, I think, as that, so they give us a cost breakdown of all the material they're gonna use, the labor they're going to use, and equipment they're going to use. Their rates, not the number of hours, but their rates are all set. So those are all set in the contract for time and material. So a foreman is going to be, X number of dollars. A laborer is going to take X number of hours, and we have. If we see something that's really out of whack, so if he's telling us it's gonna take 25 days, and if you add up all the hours, it's gonna be, 400 days so we look for that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, there is a mutual trust that we have to, look at, and luckily with this contractor, we've worked with them in the past on multiple projects, and they've been very fair, and even on this project, I mean, they jumped on stuff and they really were proactive and helping us, and so it's a good contractor. We feel, and this is after several revisions that have gone back and forth with our project manager, Brandon Laurie. And so you're seeing the end product, but Louis, 100%. I don't know what it's gonna, I don't know what's gonna take to replace rafters 100%, but I have a pretty good, feel for how long it's gonna take. But yeah, is there stuff hidden in here that I don't know about? Maybe, but we do the best we can with the information in front of us.
Correct.
And there's protections for the district, like I said, like the markups and the labor costs.
Well, I mean, when you look at it, on the estimate, it's the only variable is the number of hours, because everything else is.
And the material cost, right? So the material cost, it says this much for the rafters themselves. So we've asked for the actual billings from the material supplier. So we try to protect us as much as we can.
All right.
And then Brandon, do you have a comment you want to make?
Oh yeah, Brandon's on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I also wanted to mention, Director Vea, that we did also reach out to another coating inspector that we have a good relationship with. And I confirmed once I had received the estimate for the replacement, I just wanted to get an opinion from a guy who's in the field, 5 days a week. And he had said that it wasn't out of the question that the level of effort and the time that it was going to take to replace 33 Raptors in the tank was going to cost. And so it was just another little data point that we had to feel that they were giving us a cost that was realistic. So I just wanted to mention that.
Good, yeah, good point. Thank you. Very good. Okay, anything else from the board? All right, good. So this is a resolution number 2026-12. Approving a 222,000 increase. Do I hear on the motion from somebody?
So moved.
So we have a motion by Director Cotton, second,
Second,
Director Covington. So please,
Director Cotton,
Yes.
Director Covington,
yes.
Director Patel,
Yes.
President Bella.
yes. All right. Okay. All right, we go to item 8A, review preliminary fiscal year 2026-27 operating and capital budget and cash flow.
All right, it is that time of year again where we consider raising customer rates. So I brought it up the last several meetings as SFPC put their rate increases out there and then further refined them. We now know their rate increase, which is about 7.4% per CCF. So that is certain, and that is will go into effect July 1. Also, so just a little bit of context. So we did a 5-year rate study in 2024. Effectively get like a 4.5-year rate study because of the timing of things. But that study set the maximum we can increase our rates over that 4.5-year period without going through the whole process and the Prop 218 process again. And that is based on the cost of service to deliver our service. There's plenty of case law and plenty of structure to how one can determine what the cost of service is, but that is based on our cost of service. So that's the max we can set it, which was all based on really reasonable assumptions, including all the capital projects we were talking about now, doing the COP financing that we did do, and an assumed cost of paper projects going forward for projects we knew, and then a budgeting for projects we didn't yet have identified. So all of that is baked into the rates we have proposed here. Because we have a pass-through from SFPC, a direct pass-through, because they raised their rates slightly less, 7 cents per CCF, less than we envisioned in the study them raising. So because of that, we are proposing, and we need to propose the rates in the study minus that 7 cents. So effectively a savings. You can look at it as a savings to the customer relative to what was in the study.
What is the study?
The consultant was HF&H.
What was the percentage again?
How much?
The percentage in the study, it wasn't on a percentage basis, it was on a dollar-wise basis. So it was 7 cents more is what we envisioned. And that was based on what SFPC told us as 5 or 10 years look ahead in 2024.
I just was
Yeah,
trying to
for
figure
100.
out the delta. Okay.
So yeah, sorry, I don't have the percentage. It probably was 8% and they did 7.4, but I would have to look exactly or do the math. And so, we did the cash flow analysis, we did the preliminary operating and capital budgets, which are attached here. Those were reviewed by the finance committee earlier this week as well. The board isn't asked to approve the budget today. We still are going to work on refining that over the next month or two. We usually adopt it in June. But we're close. We're going to refine some numbers, but we're close. This is enough for sure to count on and assume. So, based on that, we have the financial modeling in here. It's a similar chart that you looked at under the previous item, where if we raise rates as suggested here, we will stay for the next several years within that sweet spot of reserve range. That's our goal and our target. In 2030, that drop is driven by the Hallmark tank project, assuming both tanks. So that is, but you can see, and from our last discussion, we have a lot of capital projects. need. So therefore, staff is definitely recommending we go ahead, we raise rates to the amount proposed in here. And when we do that, we will we need to give the customers a 30-day notice, so we'll issue the postcards that we normally do. If we adopt this month, it gives us plenty of time for those postcards to be produced and mailed and received by the July 1 period.
Can I ask a question about really the underlying philosophy behind the tiers and the rate escalation with those tiers? Because to me, it doesn't look like a particularly strong incentive for people to use less water. And just in fairness to people who are households that can and are doing their best to conserve, I would honestly rather have a slightly more modest increase on tier 1 and more of a jump at 2, and then the biggest at tier 3.
That's a good question. And there is a lot of Prop 218 discussion in case law that tells us we
Okay.
cannot.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Asked and answered. Appreciate that very much.
We have to justify it.
SFPUC able to raise rates? Can we only do this once a year?
They do it annually, yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they probably can do it more frequently, but they do it once a
Okay.
year.
So let's first about it.
For SFPC, talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Julie,
don't know,
you
I was
want
just
to
like,
No, I was just gonna say, we have to justify the tiers, and, we have to have a justification between the numbers, and not for conservation, like, there has to be like a reasoning behind it.
You
other than
explicitly can't use conservation as your reason for
Right.
defining your tiers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Even though
Conservation,
it's
but
real, but you cannot, technically you cannot use that.
Right, okay, and we can't even use sort of the fairness of a household that's using less water. I mean, I guess because you're saying that they're indirectly, you're saying they're conserving, so.
That I don't know, but I know conservation was,
It's a no word, okay?
Yeah.
And it used to be part of the analysis several rate study cycles ago. It could be one of the things. And it's that now with recent case law, it can't be one of the factors.
Thank you all for helping me understand.
Yeah.
There are other rate strategies that are much more complicated that I would not recommend we go down that path, but there are agencies that will do like an individual water budget for each household based on household characteristics and things that are just very
you wanna
onerous.
take an aerial and measure the yard?
They're
I know.
they're
We're
creative,
bringing
right?
it.
Oh, yeah, you can do
But-
it, yeah.
this is the most common and I think appropriate.
Okay, so what's the next step here on this? I know this is a review of the preliminary,
Mhm.
to make sure that you put the review and preliminary here.
And then, I'd ask if the board could adopt the ordinance, today, then we can go ahead and get those
Get the mailers.
postcards and notices issued.
So
Okay.
moved.
I thought we'd just review it today.
It's review and consider adopting the ordinance. They're both in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, review, preliminary and adopt. Yeah, pretty well covered, huh?
I could make it into a few more agenda items if you like. You know.
All right. Any other issue or comments on this?
No.
You know, just a little bit of an aside here. I mean, we do, depend on what SFPUC does. Not just us, but almost all the water agencies up and down the peninsula and in many other parts of the Bay Area. So, and to your point, Chuck, is when we talk with SFPUC, usually BOSCA is the agency that kind of holds SFPUC to maybe one rate study a year and not more, because they're going to say something if they do more. And if possible, to keep the rates, that's where the body that will kind of matches up with the CPUC and protects our, you know, rights for increase the water rates and all that, so. Okay. Very good, so regional manager wants an ordinance approved. So we need to have a motion for ordinance number 103.
It's 133.
133.
133 will amend the attachment A to the existing ordinance 103. I know, this is how it's set up. We're in the works, we're looking at updating 103 and we'll see if we can streamline language going forward, but this is what we got.
Okay, Julie, we're okay, right?
Yeah.
Beaver's gonna have her pass out to. Poor thing.
All right, so we do have a motion by Director Patel and a second by Director Covington. All right,
Director Patel,
Yes.
Director Covington,
Yes.
Director Cotton,
Yes.
President Bella.
yes. Okay. AB, receive report on Assembly Bill AB 1572, potable water for non-functional turf irrigation ban, non-functional turf ordinance discussion. Mr. Drew Toast.
He's been waiting patiently here.
Yes.
I mean, fascinating discussions, really. It's kind of fun to watch it.
Let's talk about Folger a little bit.
Yeah,
Let's talk about water, I need to.
sure. Yeah, thanks everyone. So basically, really just wanted to start a discussion about an upcoming ordinance revolving around non-functional turf, and just get some insight and feedback on the draft ordinance that we've prepared, and see if there's any concerns or anything there that we might need to look at further. So basically, if we go to the next slide, AB 1572, Assembly Bill 1572, established in 2023. It's basically a state bill that requires all urban water suppliers to ban the use of potable water for irrigation on non-functional turf on all CIA properties, so commercial, industrial, institutional properties, as well as HOA common areas, so homeowners association common areas. So it doesn't apply to single family residences, it's just commercial, CII, and those HOAs. The law requires us to adopt the ordinance by July 1st, 2027. And it was initially included as part of the urban water objectives, making conservation count for every life rulemaking, but was separated into different legislation. So next slide. There's a tiered implementation about who needs to comply with the ordinance. It starts with government-owned properties. It's beginning in January 1st, 2027. Then rolls into commercial, industrial, and then all other institutional properties like schools and hospitals, that sort of thing, in the following year. And then following that is when HOA common areas need to comply. There's a fourth tier about government agencies located on disadvantaged communities, none of which we have here, so that doesn't apply to us. Okay, so next, so when we talk about non-functional turf, we go to the next slide. When I say turf, really we're talking about mowed grass lawn areas. So we're not talking artificial turf, it's like basically grass areas that require mowing and a lot of irrigation to maintain. We're not talking about native grasses. It's really just the green mowed grass that applies here. And I think it's helpful to define functional turf before talking about non-functional. So when we say functional turf, and this is a term that comes directly from the legislation, this definition, basically a ground surface of turf located in recreational use or community space. So basically any turf that serves some function to the public, whether it's recreational, a park, a sports field, or some sort of communal gathering space that people could use, or some function. So going to the next definition, non-functional turf is basically any turf that is not functional turf. So it's sort of intentionally
That's
obtuse,
what's
but
called non-functional.
yes, exactly. So, and again, this is straight from the state definition, but it's anything that doesn't fall into the functional category, essentially. We're talking about, street medians, patches of grass in front of buildings or all along the side of buildings that aren't used for any sort of function, I guess. So going to the next, please, yeah.
So when you have those, what do we call these, the parking strips, we call these?
Yeah, medians and streets.
Medians, yeah, those are, if they are in front of, no, I'm not talking about the center medians, I'm talking about the residential area. But those are the responsibility of the homeowner, right?
Yes.
And even though they are the public right of way.
Well, if it's within the boundary of the property would be the residential's responsibility.
That's why I think they call them parking strips. And it's residential.
I think that it acts very similarly to sewer and water laterals in that each jurisdiction has their designates whose responsibility it is. Often it's the homeowner,
Yeah,
but
because this example here, this is pretty obvious,
Yeah.
this is the center strip. Okay, but I was thinking about, you sometimes drive in, you have the curb and gutter, and then you have the little lawn area, and then you have the sidewalk, and then you have the private property. So that piece of grass that I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It's always assumed as the homeowner's responsibility, but there is city, that's their.
That's public right away.
Right.
Yeah,
Public right.
yeah.
But you are responsible for it,
Yeah.
so.
I think
So-
some cities do that with sidewalks too. actually.
do. Oh, my.
They're-
We
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have it. try to-
so I was thinking that case.
I was wondering if that covers that thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, go to the next slide. So basically, to understand how much non-functional turf we're really looking at within our district, the state, the Department of Water Resources released their lucid data, basically land use covered data set, which is basically a remote sensing data set that classifies the whole state or all water districts in the state with different land use types, including functional and non-functional turf. So essentially, it's satellite imagery that they took and using different algorithms assessed well, I won't get into the details, but they classified our whole service area into the different categories. And so basically what they gave us is a list of areas, a map showing the areas with our service area that had functional turf and non-functional turf. So my kind of first step at looking at trying to quantify the number we're talking about, looking at that data set and comparing it to Google Maps and Google Earth to see if the areas that they classified make sense and or if they were misclassified and so on. Again, this is kind of like first pass DWR, second pass, this is my own assessment. Really, ultimately, we'll need another step of verification, either by ourselves going out visiting or the property owners themselves to verify whether those areas really contain non-functional turf or any turf whatsoever. So yeah, but this is just kind of like a first pass to understand what we're looking at, and just kind of get a broad sense for how much of non-functional turf we're seeing.
So is the green or the orange, the non-functional?
In this example, the green is the non-functional. If this is just a stock kind of example, this isn't our service area there, but
Okay.
I think the green was a non-functional. Then the orange is functional turf in that example. But again, this doesn't show our service area, I don't believe. So based on, as I said, the DDR data and my preliminary QAQC and look at the data, we have roughly 167,000 square foot of non-functional turf that will be affected by this ordinance. Kind of going down the list in terms of deadlines, compliance deadlines, I only identified one property that was government owned that would be affected. It was actually a a county property, San Mateo, Health and Services building that had some strips of non-functional turf along the side of the building. I've reached out to the county. I had a discussion with someone where we're setting up, a call to, further, to confirm whether or not there are other facilities that the county owns that might be affected, and to basically get a game plan for how to address it. So yeah, we're one of just basically only one property. None of our properties have non-functional turf. We talked with the city of Belmont. None of their properties have non-functional turf either. And so, basically, in that conversation, yeah, we looked at medians and other potential grass areas in front of buildings, that sort of thing. And yeah, we're able to confirm that they didn't own any either. And really the only other government agency, City of San Carlos, highly unlikely they do. I have reached out and so we're waiting to confirm with them, but really the only part of our service area that covers San Carlos is kind of the HIA area. And there's I highly doubt there's any city-owned property on that zone.
And also a little bit of residential area too.
Right, yeah.
Residential.
So highly doubt there's any, but we're gonna confirm with them anyway. In terms of the other CII, so commercial, just institutional, most of that, the non-functional turf we're seeing is in the HIA area, along sides of buildings, that sort of thing. There is, if we could go to the next slide, one large building that has probably some fairly substantial, roughly 27,000 square feet was identified. But again, looking at this picture, and something I didn't mention, there is an exemption in the ordinance to protect tree health. So if there is grass around or nearby where you're watering trees, those grass areas are exempt. Basically, we don't want to be uprooting or damaging trees as part of this ordinance. We want to preserve that those landscape areas. But clearly shown in this photo, there are some areas that will need to be addressed, like in this property. This was probably by far the largest property we identified that would be affected. Several HOA areas that were identified as well, and we took basically confirm and had discussion with them. But again, their deadline is not for until 2029, so we have some time for really all of these to basically get a game plan and get the communication going and get a game plan. So in terms of enforcement, the law does not actually require us to enforce this ordinance at all. It's very broad in terms of what they say we have to do. It just says we may enforce ordinance if we want to. I think it only makes sense from my perspective to have some enforcement language there. Otherwise, what's the point? I guess if I could be frank. So this enforcement language we're really pulling from an ordinance that we enacted as part of our water shortage contingency plan during the last drought. Basically includes a tiered approach, first with a written notice and educational materials, then with on-site notification with a potential for a daily penalty, and then finally a most egregious level suspension of water service. I think I want to emphasize here that any of these actions are at the full discretion of us at the district. We, if we choose, don't need to enact any of these violations. It's really up to our discretion if we want to enforce any of these levels. But I think it has a language there in case we want to, and so we have that option. Basically status, I attached the draft to the staff report to review, and our plan is to bring it to the board during the next meeting to adopt if we're able to. And so I could go up just a little bit. And yeah, just a small mention. We have water efficient landscape ordinance, separate ordinance, basically controls how landscaping plans are designed for the district. There's some small change that we want to make at the same time, basically a definition change that we need to make to line up with the non-functional turf ordinance. So that we're planning to make edits as well and re-adopt next month. So yeah, that's basically just long and short of the non-functional turf, and yeah, happy to answer any questions if y'all have any on.
My only question was in your, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
In your summary, your slide summary for enforcement options, it said first violation was education and written notice, but the way item BA1 is, I don't know what page this is, but enforcement and penalties. It actually looks to me like that would be first and second, because first one was if you believe there's a violation, then there's education, and then the second violation, then there's a written notice, which is not, it's a subtlety and I don't really care at the end of the day. It was more a question of curiosity if the intent was a fairly gradual escalation is how I see this.
Yeah, I think that is. In principle, I could see that making sense to split into a separate item just for clarification. Because as I read that, that is somewhat confusing to me as well. So I think it makes sense to separate that as a separate item. But
That's fine. It just seemed like that, then it's like the third one before there's really any penalty. And as you said, this is all at our discretion, but I do think it's good to, as you pointed out, I don't know what the point of having an ordinance is if there's no enforcement. It seems silly to me. So this seems reasonable.
And that's how we view, the other, aspects where we have enforcement. Our goal really is to work with the customers, educate them, have the penalty in their back pocket. And same with, late payment on bills and stuff. Yeah, we can turn off your water, but we do a lot of work to outreach you before we get to that point. Sometimes you have to do that because that's the only way people will pay attention. But
how much do we have available for turf replacement?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we currently have we call it Long Be Gone rebate program that has, at least in this year, $16,000 in the budget. And the way the rebate works, we offer $4 per square foot of turf replaced. That would get us 4,000 square feet of coverage for. So yeah, a little bit short. I think it's worth worthy discussion whether if you are being required to replace your turf, does it make sense to offer a rebate to that customer if they have to replace that turf anyway? In discussions I've had with other districts who are talking about this ordinance, I've seen both ways. I've seen some districts saying we don't have any plans to change our ordinance. Others are saying, yeah, this doesn't make sense because they are required to get rid of the turf anyway. So why are we giving them an incentive? So
and that really is a policy level decision of, do you want to incentivize something that's required? Maybe the incentive will encourage someone to do it sooner than they would have, waited for the deadline. The way the program is structured, it's, we budget a certain amount for it every year. That'll be in the adopted budget. We'll propose, I think we had in there $20,000, so just a very slight increase, but so customers can apply on a first come first served basis. When that amount runs up for the fiscal year, then that's it. The board could always approve, increasing that budget and whatnot if that's the case, or do away with it entirely, or make it residential only, not apply to non-functional turf. There's options.
So of all the agencies, so we've already discovered that the city has there's nominal corporate ones. So of the ones we could identify, most of that it sounds like be like single family home residential or HOA.
We'll get this ordinance does not apply to single family residences at all. So
that's right.
They are exempt from that. So it's really just mostly commercial buildings and a large commercial building identified, and some schools as well are potentially impacted by this. I think there is discussion that we need to have with the schools about, there's some, for example, some turf grass areas in front of some admin buildings are those used for any particular function? Obviously, the schools have fields and parks that are used. You know, maybe some students have lunch out there, right? I think there is there's a lot actually of gray area with this in terms of what we can consider a function. I think as long as there's some documentation or something from the school saying this is used for this purpose.
But for the regards to the fund that's available for somebody to replace turf, it sounds like that's really only going to be applicable to a single family homeowner because they're not required to replace it, but if they do, they can.
It's currently open to all customers, but we can definitely change the program requirements so that it only applies. And we can have this discussion of, does it only apply to single family? Does it apply to commercial when it's functional turf that they want to replace? And you know, why they want to replace functional, I don't know, but we could change the bounds of that program.
And in fact, we've had maybe 2 commercial properties take advantage of the rebate. It's almost always single family residences that use this rebate.
Thank you.
And for commercial, I mean, for any property, including single family home, replacing the turf actually ultimately is very cost effective, and it's not just the cost of the water, it's all the maintenance for, you know, fertilizer and mowing and this and that. So that, to me, that rebate is a way to help people to offset the initial cost, but they come out ahead after not that long.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't feel super strongly about providing a rebate for non-single family homeowners to do it, because when they think about their whole operation, they're not thinking just 3 months for maintaining their external, you know, property.
Very good. Joanne, anything? You good? Good. Joanne, a question on the ordinance itself. Is our ordinance gonna be like, taking AB's 1572 and put in our ordinance, or we're gonna amend it specifically for our service area?
Yeah, so it is geared specifically for our district. For example, all the enforcement language is specific to us. That is not straight from the legislation. Elements, particularly the definitions, most of those are exactly from the legislation, AB 1572. Some sections are as well, but some of it too is just drafted particular to our district. I think yeah, I think that the goal is that it matches as close as we can, and in areas that it differs is more stringent, or is like, yeah, at the minimum meeting the requirements of the legislation.
Okay. So, but AB 1572 covers basically all water agencies, whether they are part of a city or whether they're a district like us, or does it also cover the city as a government? Like, for example, Belmont, you know, their park and recreation fall under this bill as well.
It's all urban water suppliers. So basically any local government that serves water to at least 3,000 connections has to apply.
Which means obviously because the enforcement then falls on those people.
Yes, exactly. So the enforcement is.
So which kind of bring me to this, what kind of enforcement, what if you have somebody who actually challenges us, you know, in doing it, what kind of enforcement do we do?
Yeah.
We don't carry badges or guns, so.
Right. I mean, you know, we have a lot of educational materials that we've already have developed and have received through CalEP, an organization who's put out some materials for this. So we have a lot of information that we can provide in terms of actual enforcing, you know, I think it's up to our discretion of how much we really want to do. In my opinion, you know, if say during a drought, we have concerns that some of these properties are not abiding by this, we can, you know, conduct site visits and see, okay, yeah, they actually are still watering this non-functional turf when they are not supposed to. And we can, you know, get more intentional about how we outreach to those customers, calling them, putting on-site notifications. Ultimately, we do have this option here to suspend water service if needed.
I was gonna say, we can interrupt water.
Yes, yeah, that's,
Actually, we could.
We can, and we
Shut
can
the
put
water
a
off.
lock on the meter box so they can't turn it on. It's not explicitly in here, but the water code does allow us to put, restrictors on, flow restrictors as well.
I think it is actually on
Oh,
the
is it in
second
there?
three.
Sorry.
Yes, because at some
Yeah,
point,
there it
you're gonna arrive at in a situation where how much time am I going to invest into?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A person that just does not want to comply, you know,
Mhm.
so. And that one person, will take away the time of maybe 100 others that you don't have any problems with, because
Mhm.
they comply, so.
Yep.
All right, good. So you're gonna bring this to us again, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, full
Okay,
ordinance,
and then, take a look at it as a staff on before you bring it, and so it's hopefully next time we'll just approve it, because it does make sense, so.
Mhm.
Yeah, the goal here was to see if there was any feedback, any concerns, and if there's none, we can, adopt it next time with minimal discussion.
Yeah, no, the ordinance itself doesn't have to have built into it, that enforcement could lead up to whatever. So that when you apply the ordinance as your legal weapon, it has to have something in it that say, I can do this, and including that,
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, in section 5 of the ordinance says we have those enforcement items laid out, and so it's basically saying, here's our options, and I think we even have language here saying, it is up to our discretion. I think there's some soft lanes like we may impose this, so I think we have those options there, but it's not like we're for sure gonna do it like this. It's just
Correct,
has
yeah,
the
correct.
has the potential.
Because sometimes there's public agencies, and I lived through it when we did the fire ordinances, you don't have that bite. And so people will just argue about everything,
Mhm.
even though for us, it could be black and white. For them, they will throw the gray in it all the time, and they don't have anything. And then you take it to the city attorney's office. And then there's the administrative citation, and you go like, you know what? Why did I even bother with this, after about 6 months? You go like, how much time do you throw at it, so, okay, that was my fault.
It's
Alright.
interesting though, because the number of properties affected is relatively small, like coming online next year, it's one.
Yeah,
All right, I mean, it's not gonna, you know what I mean? It's not like you're trying to enforce a bunch of
it's
holes.
good.
So it's
We have
good.
other
It's-
things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is good, it is
Yeah.
good, and if we can educate some of the industrial sites ahead of time,
Yeah.
and my guess is most of them will, when they see that it's attractive, physically attractive and financially attractive to change over, they're not gonna do it right away, that's why there's a few years
Mhm.
for them to budget for it and get it done, so.
Yeah.
Because I wonder when we meet with the city, when you have those meetings with the city. If the city, their planning department, whether it'll be at that level. They would discourage, these kind of. Earth areas, especially when they get through the permit process. And it goes through the landscape architect,
Yeah.
review. They will discourage that from the beginning, tell them, you know what? And it will be something that they will tell them as an educational thing, hey, you may think about removing that because this is what's gonna happen later on.
And we've shared it with them. We shared it with actually both cities as part of the specific plan processes, because they were discussing, how they wanted to describe landscaping in their specific plans. So we educated them there. We've talked individually with the community planning director.
Yeah.
Actually, the 2x2 meetings, if you remember, we did bring it
Yes.
up there. So multiple times. So we're sharing that, we're on a box. They need to
The
think
two
about
by
it
two
too.
is that's high levels, and we're talking
Yeah,
about the.
But we had a
Yeah,
conversation
city
with
manager
Carlos
and
as
that.
well.
Has to be within the planners,
Yeah.
they are gonna be the ones that are going to be meeting with the developers.
Yeah.
And we'd already have that check through our WELO, our water efficient landscape ordinance, that the city, anytime a, building permit project goes through them, sends to us for us to review the landscaping plans to make sure they adhere to the WELO. So
Correct.
that is a check that we have to say, okay, does this include non-functional turf, and then we can come to them and,
Exactly.
so we have that check already
Yeah,
there.
it'll be part of
That's-
the comments.
Yeah.
And as this is adopted, we'll update our website. So everywhere you look for the landscape permit, right upfront what's non-functional turf and, when can I have it or not.
Right, we're through with this, Drew?
So, yes.
All right, good
Yeah,
job.
that's my,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks, everybody. Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for demoing the.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure.
Beautiful job. That's great. Appreciate it.
Halloween costume for you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. My wife sent a message and said, what are you guys doing? I thought you said you were going to a meeting. What are you guys doing?
Come on.
Related to that, my son thinks work is the most amazing thing ever.
Because
It's always stuff like that, or the mosquito district open house he goes to.
The entertainer.
All
right
the,
there.
It's just fun.
That's cool. Okay, speaking of entertainment, here we go. Receive report and recommendation and update to the rules and the board of directors, section 6 through 14, that this monthly Alice is reading all over.
Hey.
Okay.
If we recall, this was part of the strategic plan that you guys asked for.
Oh, so it's our fault, okay.
So it is your fault.
Okay.
And it was needing to be done. So as you recall, last board meeting, I brought the introduction in sections 1 through 5. And then I just want to touch on that because we did add the language that was suggested by the directors, was to add in kind of a little bit more information regarding teleconferencing. So that was added into there that you can see. It is a little bit more into great detail. Because I felt like the information needed to be labeled out, so that's a quick reference for directors to go to when needed. So bringing forth with me is the section 6 through 14. You can see that there's not a lot until you get to really sections 9. There's nothing that is new added. It is just stating what we already have existing, but it's just stated in our rules. And a lot of this is because when you look at other districts surrounding us, everything is stated out. So now that we have that there, obviously new board members that come on, we can just quickly reference them to the rules of the board in regards to information for how things are done. Again, this isn't to be adopted. This is an open discussion. If we have any suggestions, if we want to add things, if you have questions on things, this is where I get your feedback, because I know this was high priority on your list. So I'm sure we have lots of suggestions, right, guys?
Right.
Right.
Of course.
I have my pen ready.
Start that.
This is slightly ironic, right? I appreciate the things that are spelled out according to the Brown Act, to make it really explicit so that we will know, or new directors coming on.
Yeah, it was a good suggestion from last board meeting.
It actually it seemed reasonable. I didn't see anything in here that was like, well, why would it be that way? And if I did have that question, it was clearly spelled out why.
Okay.
Like, okay, it's per the water code section, blah, 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 great.
And this was reviewed by Hanson Bridget as well.
Oh, perfect. The thing I like is it's in plain English, anyone can understand it.
Yes.
Who are we to argue then?
Right.
Right.
That's great. Perfect. So then next board meeting, I'll bring it back as a complete document, and then it can go under your consent agenda.
But you know what, Allison, I read that section a couple of times on the disqualification of board members, from a topic.
Yes.
And I tried to think back in years if there was ever a situation where a board member had to recuse himself or herself from the board, and I just could not come up with
So
anything.
that happened recently. If you think about it, when the discussion of bringing Director Patel on, and Director Wheeler had to recuse himself. But other than that, that has been the only situation, at least since I've been here.
Or similar when directors coming to the con were appointed, those members.
I mean, there's not like been a project, cause I remember being on
No.
Park and Rec, you have to be 500 feet
Yeah,
from a
no.
project, otherwise you gotta recuse.
No, but I was thinking more about projects out there
Sure.
that somebody had maybe some potential vested interest
Right.
in, which would, I could not come up with anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we had a director that lived like adjacent to Folger, that would be the case. if we ever have an agreement with Silicon Valley Clean Water, including the pure water agreement, when that comes down the line, he would excuse himself at that point, but yeah.
Yeah,
Not common, but it can happen.
yeah, but there has
Understandable.
to be an avenue where the director could be favored or could have some kind of a benefit from the discussion. Otherwise, why would you recuse yourself, right?
Or perceived.
Or, yeah,
Benefit.
so I mean, so if we're talking about Hallmark tank, I mean, I'm only like, 300 feet away from Hallmark tank. Maybe 500 feet, so, then what do? I recuse myself because, what, the tank, I'm gonna do business with the tank.
Well, kind of.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't say that you would have to, it just said that you would have to notify the general manager and then determine if it's a disqualifying conflict or interest.
Correct.
So it might not be disqualifying just because you're 300 feet away.
If you owned a coating company on the side. for the
Exactly.
tank, Then I would say, yeah, you're definitely pressing.
I may want to do Hallmark tank first because I want good pressure for my house.
Well, Pat might or might not say that's disqualifying, so there you go.
And I would defer to the attorneys, I think.
Yeah.
It really came off with mute.
Yeah, I mean, if I just pipe in a little bit, I mean, the Political Reform Act and Government Code Section 1090 are super complicated. These rules of the board reflect, the general gist of those laws. But we don't expect that board members, just because this is here, that you're gonna like somehow figure out whether you have a conflict that requires recusal. That's always gonna be something that we help you with. It's super fact specific. There's a whole bunch of elements you have to go through. It's really complicated area of the law. We're not just leaving it up to you to figure out just because it's in your rules now. So
Thank you.
yeah, it's there. Someone can refer to it. It might trigger something in your mind, right? Where you're like, oh, is this a conflict? Like, go to Kat, go to me, we'll figure it out.
I like that.
I like that too.
I do too.
Alright.
That's
All right.
great. Thank
Very
you,
good. Thank
Julie,
you.
for that extra color.
All right, now for the most important thing on the agenda. Select date for district photos.
All right, so as you are all aware, we are taking brand new district photos. That's headshots, that's group shots, that's aerial photos of tanks, that's photos of pump stations, it's everything and anything. But I need to see your availability. Now, the downside is that I had expected Matt to be here. So instead of just picking a day, if you guys could just let me know if yes or no that these days work for you. And then when Matt comes back, I'll ask him. So June 3rd, who does that work for?
Is it any particular time day?
Yes, you guys are either going to be in the morning or you're going to be in the afternoon, but it has to be a group because all of the rest of us, including staff, are going to be with you at that time. So you are determining it for us as a district because they have the headshots set up one time. And so we'll just go in a rotation.
So in the morning, how early in the morning?
They can be here as early as 8 o'clock, but for
So it's
lighting,
like
we're taking them outside.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I was thinking, maybe before.
yeah, we're taking them outside. So lighting wise, he was suggesting between like 8:30, 8:45, but I mean, if the lighting's good when you get there at 8.
Yeah.
Who's not to say you can't just stand there in front of the
In
camera.
general, it should be, at 8 o'clock will be.
Mhm. And we're gonna be doing them over at Twin Pines Park.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, cool.
I know, we're fancy.
So, so far, my calendar is pretty good for all.
In the morning and afternoon?
In the morning will be better, in the afternoon I can make it work though.
Okay.
So I won't be a spoil sport. I'll go with 11.
You're good.
So so was it third? Oops.
So Director Patel, what is your availability look like?
I can only do the 3rd
Okay,
because of travel plans later.
Okay, and
I have a preference for afternoon, but I could do the morning, but I might have to ask for one of the, a slot before 8:30, because I have a nine AM work meeting.
And I have the reverse, so I can do 9 AM on the third.
Okay.
Strangely, I have a 7:30 appointment.
On the third?
Yeah.
7:30.
Director Covington, can you do the 9th, 10th, or 11th?
Yes, as long as I block the time out on my calendar, but so far I can do any time the morning of the 9th. The 10th before 10:30 and the 11th before 10.
Got it. Okay, and then Director Cotton, how are
Yeah.
you looking?
Third's wide open, morning on the 9th and morning on the 10th are good. 11th is wide open.
Oh, you did that one.
That was so easy. I'm so proud of you guys.
Well, you did give us heads up. I was like, okay, I'll look at my calendar before I come. Appreciate it.
Okay.
So then I'll get Matt's availability when he's here, and then I'll let you guys know as soon as it's set in stone.
I'll text him if I were you.
Right now, but yes, I will.
They're gonna say, Mamma mia.
We can say more than that.
Okay. So that's done. We'll go to the next item, which is the management and board report. Financial report for the month ending March 31st, 2026.
Hi, good evening. Let me share my screen really quickly because the report in the packet was last month. So let me share the current one. Allison, I just sent you a request to share my screen.
Got it.
Is the one online? Up to date?
No, we just found this out about an hour ago.
Oh, wait, sorry, just the one thing.
Mika, can you share your screen, or did it work? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, can you see my screen now?
No, I've got to stop sharing mine, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that helps.
Okay, let me know when you can see it.
I'm too old to do this from the back of the room. I'm gonna actually have to.
You're not doing the same thing.
Stand up.
Come join us.
Definitely gotta blow it up.
A little bit bigger than that.
Does that work for you?
Yes.
All right. Everyone can see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I know Kat mentioned that I can't wait for James to get back, which is true, but it has been a pleasure working with the district over the last 2 months. So thank you for the opportunity. And I know James will be very, very excited to come back and be with the district next month. But happy to be here to talk about March, the financials through March. We are 75% of the way through the fiscal year. June 30th is rapidly approaching. But these financials give us a really good picture of where the district is at so far. So a couple of key highlights here. Some of these we talked about last month, but I'll just run through these pretty quickly here. So far, the net surplus from operations is at 3.4 million, and compared to last year, that's an increase of 1.6 million. And again, the primary changes, the driver of that is the water commodity charges, which is 1.3 million higher, and then the fixed system charges, which is 970,000 higher compared to last year. There was a decrease in the capacity charges of 611,000, but those tend to be pretty variable year to year. And then interest revenue is trending much higher compared to last year by 724,000, and that's just due to those COPs that were issued. Purchased water is trending slightly below. It's 46,000 below compared to last year. Professional services is also trending a bit lower at 94,000 less compared to last year. And maintenance and rehab for the operating system is now trending higher at 34,000 over the prior year. The first full debt service payment for the 2025 COPs was paid in December, and we have an upcoming payment for interest on both of the COPs in June. So that will be coming up. You'll see the rest of that debt service being paid in June. Water commodity charges were at 10.5 million, which is right on target at 74.7% of the budget. And then there was, the fixed system charges were 3.6 million, which is also right on target at 75.1% of budget. There was a receipt for the capacity charges that I mentioned. That was 196,000 back in October. And that's always related to the development there. The total interest revenue from all sources is 936,877, which is quite a bit. Total operating revenue is at 14.4 million, right on target again at 74.8% of budget. And then total non-operating revenue is 1.7 million, which is 77% of the budget. That brings your total revenues to 16.1 million, again, 75% of budget, right on target there. Combined salaries and wages and then payroll taxes and benefits is at $3 million, which is just slightly above at 77.5% of the budget. And then purchased water, 4.8 million. And compared to last year, that was at 4.9 million. Again, that slight decrease there. Total operating expenditures were 12.7 million, so just under budget at 69.1% overall. And then talking through some of those capital expenditures, the total drawdowns were 1.5 million. And then that brings your unrestricted cash and cash equivalents to 5 million, which is a large increase of 2 million compared to last year. Investments are currently sitting at 12 million. There was a use of those for the debt service purposes of for a decrease of $1 million there. Then your restricted cash is currently at 32.8 million. There is 23.7 invested in T-bills and bonds, and then 9 million currently sitting in money market funds. And overall, that brings the district's unrestricted net position to 20.8 million, and then total net position of 47.2 million. But if there are any specific questions, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, that is it for March.
Nico, could you roll forward to the sheet that is normally attached?
Yeah.
Only because that's the easiest place to kind of see variances. I know you verbalized it, but this is actually what I use to look at it, and then I go back and I see if there's a comment, so.
Right.
Yeah. I think I had a question, I think it's gonna be in here too. Yeah, I just wanted to know, for membership and government fees that were a little over 100%, do we usually spend most of our money on that stuff, like, before the fiscal year has ended, or is it, and you might not know, but is this a problem that people might need reimbursement for stuff and it's not in the budget?
That's a great question. I know Kat can chime in, but there is usually quite a bit of timing when it comes to memberships and dues. Yeah, there is that factor. But if Kat wants to chime in on that other part of the question, that'd be great.
Yeah, most of them are annual fees.
Yeah.
And this year we did have one membership, I think maybe even two, but one where we weren't invoiced the previous year for whatever reason, so we paid 2 years worth. So it's just,
Yeah, it's fine.
there's small parts of the budget overall, but
It's very small. I was just trying to understand, because everything else is pretty much
yeah.
straight in line without much, much variance. And then I figured on the interest revenue where it was really funky, it's because it must be where we've parked. We've moved a lot of stuff out of the sweep and it's in the treasury. So now you get a lot of interest there, and the other one looks really low, but it's just how the money is being held.
There's definitely timing issues, and actually to that point, like one of the thing I love about the financial model that we have now, it's actually broken down on a monthly basis. So costs are reflected in the month they typically happen, the same with the revenues. So
That's really nice.
because it is quite complicated. One little spreadsheet like this doesn't.
Yeah.
Do it justice.
Good. Any more questions for Kamiko?
Good.
Kamiko, I have one quick observation because I cannot see it from here, but on the expenses side for payroll tax, what percentage of the budget are we?
It shows 82.5%.
Okay, now that is high too. Why?
Let
So
me,
you also have to take into consideration that it's high right now, but we did have a lot of retro pay that was being done due to like the general manager not having been evaluated on the appropriate timeline. And there were some raises, and then there's also the additional 2 employees that we have.
These are payroll taxes and benefits, not salaries.
No.
Oh, sorry, I was,
This taxes.
I heard it as salaries, I'm sorry.
No, payroll taxes and benefits, that's the line. The salaries are probably trending pretty on,
They are,
Budget.
they're 75.3.
So it's right on the.
yeah,
So it's
Yeah,
right on
that's
the mark,
pretty
but you're right, the other one's 82.5 for
that
the-
one is high. I was high also last month and it's still high. And for the life of me, I don't know why.
so Allison, because I don't know the answer to this, but is there any timing with invoicing for any of the benefit payments? Are they paid in advance?
So they are paid in advance, so I would have to look into why the payroll taxes and
Yeah.
benefits are trending higher.
But that could be part of it, is just
But the ones that we have higher, it's almost like there is an explanation for it, but that one usually trends with the percentages of the budget spent, that's
Mhm.
how it normally trends, like salaries, like,
Right.
especially in the case when you are fully staffed like we are now, so I was wondering why. Okay. Anything else? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Kamiko.
Thank you.
I really was gonna have to ask Director Cotton and Bella where you get your glasses from, if you could read that from back there.
So don't ask that question now.
Dr. Kim, right over at, across the street.
Yeah. Actually, I need to take off my glasses to read, but then I was a little bit too far away, so I didn't put it back on. Anyways. All right. Next is the district engineer. Mr. Pator.
Yeah, make this quick. The DLNO project, the last item of work on that project was a slurry seal. And that was placed on April 7th. We're waiting for favorable weather. And actually, the striping, which goes with the slurry seal, that's the pavement marking, and it was scheduled for this past Monday, but the rains delayed it. So ironic that we had such warm winter and then we have rains when we don't need it. But anyway, it got rescheduled for this coming week, so
Great.
or next week. So that's the last item of work. So we anticipate coming to the board to accept the project in May. That's a board action, and then that kicks on the 2-year warranty period. So that we will own the facilities after that. The Lower Notre Dame Willow, that's on schedule. Nothing to report on that. The big report on State Route 101 is that we submitted to the City of San Carlos and Division of Drinking Water plan sets for permitting, and we have a meeting set up. City of San Carlos actually wanted to meet with us, so we're taking it as good news, but who knows? They've been involved with the design all throughout. We've had progress meetings with them, but this is the first time they wanted to meet, so in person. So we have a meeting set up with them next Thursday, which is also ironically the same day we're meeting with the City of Belmont Public Works, our quarterly meeting with the City of Belmont. So we're gonna meet with both our partners at the same day, so. And then the other big development stated there was on the Coven tanks. We actually antenna folks met in the field. So that's a big, but I'm not sure if we've heard back from them, but I think Sarah has it in her report. So let's see, and then the last page, just the explanation of the West Belmont Exborn, which was already covered in the other report. So that's it.
Thank you.
And the retention basin is down on the list, right?
It's, we have it listed here. We're gonna talk to, the city on Wednesday when we meet quarterly, just to get a status update. Their project manager reached out to us, and asked us for a status for relocating our line, but the last we had heard from the city was they didn't have funding. So we're just trying to kind of try to connect the dots, and so we're meeting with Public Works Director, City Engineer, next Wednesday, so we'll ask about that.
Yes, good. All right, and I think for the district manager, none?
No, district engineer, not the manager.
Promoted.
Yeah. That's not a promotion I want. That is not,
Debating between city manager and district manager. I just throw district here. You don't want to be city manager, do you?
no, not that either. I'll
All right.
I'll stick with the engineer. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Appreciate it though.
Yeah.
Admin manager.
I'll touch on the fun stuff. So we're starting a compensation study. That's fun. Last time we had one done was in 2018, so we're initiating with Wendy Brown and Associates. This will be our first time working with them, so I'm really excited. I've watched a couple of their talks at some conferences, so they're going to be initiating our comp study for us. That's also in preparation for our letter agreement with the Employee Association will be expiring in about a year, so we're getting ready for that as well. And then yesterday was Admin Appreciation Day. So myself and Kat took all of the admin staff out to lunch. They were very grateful and they had a fantastic time and we ate some really good food at Nolan's.
Yeah. Was guys go to Nolani?
Nolani's.
On Laurel?
Yes. Civic Plus is our new online platform for our agendas. So you guys will get to see that pretty soon. Our May meeting will be our launch date for Civic Plus. We have done a very condensed and accelerated training. So I appreciate Kat and Sarah being so willing to take multiple trainings in a month. What usually takes quite a bit of time, we're doing it in 3 months. But the platform is incredibly user friendly. So we've been able to grasp it quickly, for sure.
I can't wait to have a tool that compiles this PDF so we don't
Oh,
have a little.
yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And then just continuing on with the monthly meetings with the Employee Association, it's just continuing to be a beneficial relationship by all means. So that's it for me. Any questions?
What normally do employees bring to those meetings?
Sure, I love that question. So I first kind of, they're always a little intimidated, they're always a little shy, so I always start the conversation. And I always started very simply with, this is what is coming up in the board meeting, or this is what ended up, the resolutions from the board meeting, that kind of thing. And then the last questions regarding that. I'll bring up things like the comp study, I brought that concept up. And then that initiated the conversation of, well, these two employees had never been involved in negotiations before. And so they had very broad questions of what does that look like on our end? And how do I find these documents? And how do I know what to do? And I was like, and they're like, can we even ask you that? And I said, of course. And so I sent them the initial documents, then I'll be meeting with them in June to just kind of go over what it's gonna look like when we're sitting across the table from each other, what they should be presenting, what their openers are, and vice versa. So that they're not coming in blinded. But that's, pretty much a typical conversation. They'll talk about things that, the guys are, hearing about Folger. That was a hot topic for quite a while. Because I made them all get everything out of Folger really quickly because we were going to start. So they're like, why isn't that happening? And so those types of conversations, yeah.
Good. Yeah, the more you share about what
Yes.
comes on at this
Oh, yeah.
table, the better
Mhm.
informed they are, so some of it, maybe they may not be as interested, but it's good for them to hear.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'm fortunate too that the two main, the president and the vice president of the Employee Association, they're very engaged and they're very much eager to know what's going on in the district and learn. So that's a benefit for sure.
And the president of the association is
Destin Swift.
Justin?
Destin?
Destin.
He Came about a year ago and presented on.
On spatial
something.
wave.
Oh,
Spatial
oh,
wave.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the VP?
Is Trevor. He is our new cross connection control specialist.
Okay.
He actually will be coming to speak with you guys at some point too. In
Good.
presentation.
Yeah, good. All right. As Mike was for a long time, cannot be anymore, right?
No, he am not.
All right, anything else from the admin services manager?
I am out of words, so. no.
Okay. Operations manager, Sarah.
All right. Well, I don't think we need to talk about Folger anymore. We can talk a little bit about Dairy Lane. I had mentioned to everyone in the last meeting about some lower dollar contracts that we had approved, and that work is being done. One of them was with BKF for additional land surveying to create a boundary survey that's necessary for the planning planning application. So that's well underway, and we had Romic Engineering come out to conduct the additional subsurface investigations. They brought out a couple of drills. I attached some pictures to show you. This report has pictures, kind of a new thing, so kind of fun. So I did attach that. That got done on a rainy day, and we also got done some. We had an electrical consultant come out, and Michael and Victor were able to find some actual as-built plans for the work that was done, I believe, in 99 or 2000. So we actually saved some money on the electrical engineering consultant that came out. He didn't have to do quite as much work, but that work is also done. Jobin pretty much covered all of the other projects that I have listed here. I did list the Decoven tanks, and as was mentioned, we did meet with the T-Mobile contractors who would be responsible for recommending where they move those poles off of our tanks into a temporary location. So they were out taking measurements, and I haven't heard back from them anything definitively on plans, but they are aware of where they would like to put the temporary tower. Kind of remains to be seen whether that will work out or not. There's really not very many options on the site, so we'll have to see how that plays out. Our leases there do expire in 27 and 28, so we kind of have that in our back pocket to motivate them to move quickly. So for operations and maintenance, I did want to mention that we promoted one of our lead operators, Eric Perez, was promoted to lead from an operator, which reflects his recent contributions to the team, particularly his contributions towards fleet maintenance and system repairs, parts inventory, and cross-training. Eric has taken over all of the vehicle maintenance responsibilities for a gentleman that retired that I never met named Stan, but I hear about him a lot. And he'll continue to be the lead for that, as well as helping us track, coming up with a tracking system for all of our our regulatory permits, and working with the persons responsible for those annual events and reports and things that we need to submit. And also he's working with Chris, one of our other lead operators, on cross-training and SOP development. So congratulations to Eric, it's well deserved. As far as regular operations go, hydrant maintenance and valve turnings were up this month. Both of them we got a lot done as far as just regular O&M. So we had some time to do that. I don't think I need to talk much about development. I do want to mention, so what's up on the screen now, there's a picture of the Decoven T-Mobile cell towers, as well as some thank you notes that we got from some high schoolers. We were invited to go to Woodside High School. Michael, our superintendent, went with me, and we presented to the Green Academy Symposium on March 25th. This is where groups of students who are, particularly interested and engaged in the sciences A lot of them were interested in medical and environmental types of studies. So we basically just went and talked with them about what our career path has looked like. What some of the pros and cons of the field are, talk to them about the education that was required for our careers, and just, listen to them, ask them what their hopes and dreams were, and had a good conversation. So it was a good, fun experience. And I thought it was sweet that they put these little post-it notes together and sent us a thank you. So I thought I would share that with you guys. Several of our staff did go to the American Water Works Association Conference of the West in April. We had sent Drew went, our water resources coordinator, Michael, our superintendent went. We had an operations lead and maintenance technician and one operator, so it was well attended. Yes, and here are some pictures of our confined space entry training that was conducted last month in March, and it was a joint training with Prisma Hills, and it was an all-day thing, and it looks like they had a good time. I think those pictures are really cute. That truck there is sort of their entering the confined space from the top, and it's kind of a cool thing where everybody can see what's going on, and they get a lot of hands-on training. So I thought I would share that with you guys too. And yes, the regional water system. This picture on the next page is of a release from an unusually early reservoir storage release. So we've had a lot of rain this year. The upcountry reservoirs saw multiple weeks of elevated inflows and rapid decline in watershed snowpack, prompting the release. That must have been a really cool sight to see. I don't see it up on the screen, but seeing it in my pack, but that's okay. Probably in your pack as well. Demand. I'm sorry.
Back.
We're not going
Look back, look for a waterfall, go back. There you go.
There it is. Yeah, so that's a release from the Hetch Hetchy Dam. The demand from the regional water system supplies increased significantly in March due to the warmer weather in the area. And the delivery average for March was 198 million gallons per day, which is an increase of 17.2% compared to the February delivery rate. And the month of March was relatively dry, but we did get a few storms in early April. The cumulative 6-station precipitation index for the water year in 2026 was around 24 inches, which is 93% of the median to date. And the Hetch Hetchy gauge was a little bit less than that, with 0.88 inches in March, 23.88 inches for the water year, and 87% of the water year median to date. So these graphs here are just showing the precipitation at Hetch Hetchy weather station as of April 1st. And the graph on the next page is the snow pillows index compared to all of the other years, which is, you can see, is down as the red line. So while we did get a significant amount of precipitation, the snow is not really sticking around. It's melting and running off, and that's what happens. We get releases from the reservoir, but the reservoirs are full still, so we're in good shape for the water year. It's looking good as far as supplies remaining robust.
So does this change the outlook for drought? Given the early snow melt, and are there any predictions on that?
Well, they always want us to just sort of be, vigilant about it. I don't know that they're expecting that we're going to enter into a drought. The reservoirs are full. So I would, it's just something that we continue to monitor, but nobody has really been talking about enacting any sort of drought levels yet this year. We did just get a lot of rain last week. I mean, I drove over the Highway 80 a couple days ago, and there was quite a bit of snow on the ground, but not on the, it was interesting. It wasn't on the eastern side. As soon as you got up and over the summit, there was nothing, but on the western side, it was pretty deep.
We still get those graphs from NOAA on like drought predictions and fire risk.
We could,
I can get them.
Yeah, I really appreciate those being included, if we could do that going forward.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you guys are interested in any particular information, I'm always happy to hear about it and include it. So I'll just have to
go into
go through that.
detail for every single reservoir, but I think the drought and fire risk, it's good to kind of that.
Yeah, for the whole state, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, especially moving into the spring and summer.
right.
So that's all I have. Any questions?
Yeah. Sarah, where did Eric come from? Which jurisdiction did he come to us from? Or company?
That I do not know. I would have to ask Kat or Allison. He was.
So
What was that?
Was he in the machine shop and
No,
was he
he's
a
in the
mechanic?
water district over in Santa Cruz. So he came with water district experience.
Okay.
and earlier in his career, he did a lot of equipment operating, as well as he worked for the bus transportation district doing bus maintenance, actually the night shift bus maintenance for many years. So but he transitioned to water before joining us, and has done an excellent job.
Good. And Sarah, how come you guys went to Woodside, not Ralston, not Carmont?
Oh, well, the Woodside person reached out to us. I'm not sure if Carl's, what is it? Carmont.
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 That's our high school. They probably don't know.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a good program, to get people interested in a field that I didn't know about. I went all the way through college and I didn't know that this particular field or most of where I've spent my career even existed until I landed in it. So it's really good to get into those and into the trade schools where we can as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. I bet you if you tell Carmont that you went to Woodside, they will probably invite you.
Carmont does something very similar, and I spoke for 2 years over at Carmont when I was with the city. So they do something very similar, and I actually gave a presentation on city work and what pensions look like. And I blew their minds.
Yeah.
They had, out of a room full of, I think, 200 students, only one knew what a pension was. I was like, let me tell you what a pension is.
But did you get a car?
I
Did you get
think probably got some, I don't know. But yeah, I started the internship program over at the city with the students from Carmont.
Good. Yeah, I mean, if we could do something with, just like we do with the calendar, our schools, our high school, our university, so.
Yeah, it's another thing that was on the strategic plan and strategic goals was to start doing more community education and outreach with the schools where we can. So this was just the first event, hopefully of a few more, many.
Correct, yeah. The first thing that I did when I was looking at that, I circled it and put a question mark. Why?
I don't know, but Carmont has a green academy. I think it's kind of cool.
It is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It is very cool.
All right, any questions for our ops manager? None? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Manager.
All right, one little piece of news I learned this afternoon is that San Carlos will be appointing their new city manager next week.
Oh, please.
And it is
Bye.
someone who is familiar to us, Kathy Kleinbaum, who is leaving Belmont as assistant city
No
manager
way.
to join San Carlos.
San
So
Carlos.
Wow.
So Ashton is gonna have to look for somebody else again.
yeah,
How long has she been with Belmont?
She's been with them a little under 3 years.
It didn't seem like it was very long.
No, it wasn't.
the latest and greatest news. So in the report, I have Bosca annual survey, so that was recently released. That's a document that they publish every year, and I believe, before they were Bosca, when they were BAWA, they did it as well, but I put in the link here just in case you're curious. It's kind of a nice document because it's really a wealth of data talking about the water supply and demand and, historical, trends for all of the 26 agencies. And it's no small feat to put that together. I actually did it many years ago when a Bosca person was on maternity leave. So it takes a while to develop, but it's definitely great when it's put together. We also received the SFPUC water supply availability letter. They're always informing us about supply at different levels. This is their annual level letter in spring, which I've attached. So what they talk about here is how total precipitation of the Hetch Hetchy system has been about median, pretty consistent with median, but snowpack is about 25% of the historic median. So it's not the lowest it's ever been. It's certainly low, but it's not the lowest it's ever been. But the good news is that the reservoir storages are well above where they typically are this time of year. And they expect to fill the system by the end of May. So that is good news. The way, this is their annual letter, like they'll give us updates periodically in different ways, but officially and for our planning purposes, it's, it says, though we continue to be in a solid position for water supply this year, as always, we appreciate the continued efforts of our customers to encourage water conservation in their service areas. And they've also kind of shared with us that if we see drought messaging start happening at the state level, with their voluntary or mandatory requirements at the state level, SFPUC in general wants to be consistent with that messaging. So it's possible that we will similarly get, voluntary drought messaging as that evolves. They don't want to contradict the state. But as far as our reservoirs, they're good and full right now. For emergency planning, I met with Dr. Shruti Depadkar, who is the Director of Emergency Management for the county. And I have a typo in here, that's not how you spell his name, and Tom Schmigel, a CEO of Bosca, earlier this month. And so this was Tom's introduction to the county. We were able to talk about what Bosca has been doing with their strategy 2050, and how the discussions around emergency management have evolved there. And, the county shared their perspective. And so Tom and I were invited to come and speak with the full county DEM team at their biweekly huddle in June. So we'll do that. The goal is to share more about how water works in this county, because it's kind of a black box to a lot of folks. But once you kind of really start understanding how it works, then you can start understanding how to help prepare at the county level and whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm very happy to be working on and involved in that. Local hazard mitigation plan development, just a little update. We previously submitted a bunch of information. They've since spat it back out into a draft. And so we're reviewing that draft, and we'll continue to do that and give them edits soon. For Earth Day, I have a picture from the event. I wasn't able to be there myself because I was at Progress Seminar. But speaking of Carlmont, I included in here a link. The Carlmont newspaper, Scott Scoop, did a big, section article on Earth Day, including one highlight on the district's involvement specifically, and they interviewed, actually Drew. I tried to PDF it, but it's this weird thing in the middle of the web page, and it wouldn't PDF. So you'll have to take a look yourself. But it was a nice little write-up. And periodically, actually, the Scott Scoop often enough, a couple times a year, they reach out to us and ask for interviews to do articles and stuff. So we try to support whenever we can.
This Earth Day was at Twin Pines as well, right? Yeah, looks like it.
And then the San Mateo County Chamber of Commerce Progress Seminar, I attended that with President Bella. It's really an interesting and kind of unique seminar, retreat, whatever you want to call it. But it's good because I mean, they really just bring so much of county leadership from all, different
Talking
agencies
about
and
the big government
organizations
of the county
as well
and the
as,
state.
Yeah.
They were there, so.
sorry. It's good. I don't know if you want to share anything or you want to wait for your report.
I'll share a little bit later on, yeah.
Next item I wanted to highlight is the advocacy around water system and wildfire preparedness legislation. Like I mentioned earlier, that this year there's been so many pieces of legislation introduced. All of our kind of advocacy groups have been scrambling to digest and understand and see what moves forward and what's appropriate, what's not. So a lot of those bills have kind of petered out. But two of them that are moving ahead so far are SB 1553, which actually the various entities like CSDA and Aqua support and help develop. And AB 2013, which has some real challenges and, well-intentioned but not well-executed language in there. And so, all these groups listed here have been doing a lot of work. The district signed a coalition letters for both of those bills. And it does seem the advocacy is working. On the 14th, Aqua shared that AB 2013 didn't receive the votes it needed to pass out of the assembly for emergency management committee. And so that bill is slowing down. Hopefully the other one will move forward. I do have the more detailed kind of fact sheets, talking points that cover both of those bills attached here. If you're curious, certainly we support reform related to wildfire, but we just want to make sure that, one of the dangers is, as we saw in LA, is like really misrepresenting the role of a water system, an urban water system. So we'll see how those evolve. And similarly, CARB, the California Air Resources Board, has their advanced clean fleets rule that's out there, and they were in the rulemaking process. They had a very short 15-day comment period on the latest rulemaking. So all the organizations really, reached out and to gather support to respond to that. So we did submit a letter, a brief letter using the CSDA template with some details and facts about us as an organization, asking them to really consider including exclusions for vehicles used for emergency purposes. What this is it's a requirement that all medium duty and heavy duty vehicles by government agencies be all electric. And unfortunately, there's just not a great market for those vehicles. The vehicles that do exist are much more expensive. I just learned that apparently even Ford, which has, developed its F-150 Lightning all electric, they just decided to pull that off of the market. So vehicles that we thought were going to be there aren't there. And then just the reality of if you need to respond to emergencies, having extra time related to charging and delay is just going to put your mission at risk. So I have, rather than our short letter, but I have the larger kind of coalition letter that was submitted attached here. If if that helps explain the issues in more detail.
I will say that in the future, I think charging is going to become less of an issue. I was just reading about some Chinese companies that are working on being able to, charge a 60 kilowatt battery in less than 5 minutes, at which point it's competitive with putting, gas in the tank. So we're getting there. It's changing. It is changing. And for all the downsides that we're going to have as far as oil and steel costs, I do think that car manufacturers of EVs are going to change their tune a little bit, because already consumers are like, oh, this isn't working so good for me to be at the gas tank now, you know,
Yeah.
at the gas station. So I know it's a situation that's in flux, and right now this is the right position for us, just in terms of making sure we get service where it needs to be. But I think if CARB can make this push it out a little bit, then personally I would be more comfortable with it.
Exactly, and we have a few electric vehicles, you know, the smaller ones in our fleet. And we're certainly not opposed to having others, it's just they have to be able to do the job we need them to do, and not at an exorbitant cost, like we're looking at buying a
Correct.
small dump truck soon and buying an electric dump truck.
Yeah, no.
And the goal is to, this is a big public works, concern, throughout the industry, and we're at a public works, public work is trying to get into the same category as first responders as
Yeah.
police and fire, right? And police and fire are exempt from this, requirement, so, so we're, and at the end of the day, the vehicles are just not available, even if you wanted to purchase it.
Yeah.
So I think everything else in here is just kind of continued ongoing. We submitted our EIR, and that we heard from the water board really fast that it was approved, so that's good to have that checked off. If you have any questions on anything else in here, let me know.
And the water management rep, who's attending those? You still, are you still?
Yeah, Drew and I. Typically.
Drew and you?
Yeah, and sometimes Sarah does when one of us isn't available, but yeah. I just have such a history with Bosca and those issues.
Very good. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff for next month too.
Some of those will get pushed, but you know, that's all in the works. We're gonna try to put as much on consent as we can. Don't make that face. I'm the one who's gonna be at Aqua for a week.
You
I
are?
think who else is
Uh-huh.
coming?
During that,
Be there.
I'll just be there for the first couple of days, yeah.
Okay.
for the GPIA portion in
Where's it gonna be at? Sacramento?
Sacramento.
Don't be jealous.
All right, anything else from the general manager? All right, director's report. I'll go to my right, Director Patel, anything?
Allison and Kat kindly offered me and I accepted a tour of the Folger and dairy facilities, which actually was extremely helpful.
Excellent.
And then Director Zuka offered us a tour of Silicon Valley Clean Water, which actually was also quite interesting, especially when we're talking about potable and non-potable water sources.
That's good. All right, and who went for that, the Silicon Valley water, clean water?
Allison,
Oh, good.
There was a lot of us.
Good.
You've been-
Sarah,
Yeah, it was a good experience, very interesting. As a matter of fact, I told some people about it, and they're like, oh, when's the next one? I wanna go, I wanna go, so. I
Yeah.
know Matt will be thrilled to have some more
Yeah, that's
folks to
awesome.
shepherd around.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I was at the Harbor Industrial, trying to remember what our speak.
Electric vehicles.
Was it the electric vehicle?
Yeah, the charging
Okay.
station.
Yeah.
The lack of charging stations we have. you know.
Well, and their whole plan of
Autonomous ones.
trying to figure out acreage to set up their vehicle charging service stations somewhere up and down the peninsula, and I mean, I don't know how they're gonna crack that nut. I mean, that's gonna be very interesting, the way they've required entry and exit for these locations, the amount of space, the power that's needed, you know, who wants 500 Waymos hanging around in your town? So I don't know how they're gonna do that, but it was interesting to hear that's their plans. I rode in my third Waymo the other day up in the city, and I mean, I'm happy it's here. It's great to see them around here, but as far as they're moving forward with their infrastructure, I just, you know, love to see how that plays out. But other than that, that was it. I'll be
Good.
in Sacramento in 2 weeks with
Oh,
the.
you're gonna go?
Right.
Good. And Director Covington,
No report for
all
me.
good? All right. good. We did have the finance committee meeting. And the HIA. And the progress seminar, interesting. This was my first time at the progress seminar. And it just, anybody who is like in a managerial political position anywhere in the county was up there. Truly, they all look forward to going up there. And the good thing about it is that with some people, you read about them on the local newspapers and you don't actually meet them, or maybe you see them one time and you say hi and they have no idea who you are. But over there, they will get to know you, you'll get to know them. And just like anything else, when you do business, no matter how good it is, if you don't have the relationship, it takes you that much longer to actually that. And that's a very good venue to get to know these people from a personal and the beauty of it is sometimes when you go into the main hall, either because it's lunchtime and then you bring lunch in, most of the time you never sit in the same chair again, because somebody else is sitting there. So you'll end up sitting at a table with, maybe 8 or 9 strangers, and but you get to know them quickly and the backgrounds that they have, and especially the political people, and the staff around them, they're pretty interesting to talk to sometimes. And the things they go through to get their person elected. But they are the ones that make things happen around the county, whether you like it or not, that's the way things work. And it's always good to have that connections with them ahead of time. So it was good, it was a good experience. And we'll see. And also the speakers that they bring are really, really good speakers and people that are in the business, not somebody who retired and is in the speaker circle. They are in the business, they're doing it now. I met some people from South City in the planning department, and there was a project that I was interested in knowing more. You get to talk to the person who is actually looking at the project, so, and people, big people from Sacramento, like Kevin Mullen and Becker and,
Ricardo was
the
there.
kind of manager, so a lot of people who are well known. Ricardo, so. Anyways, and then we had also Pappen, who came and saw our facility here, which is good, to say hello to her and, and get to know us and all that, so. So, yeah, especially whoever is in this position here, it may not be a bad idea to go up, and next year, if I can, make that time, I'll probably go again. So,
Is that annual?
yes.
Yeah, great.
Once a year, and it used to be in Monterey for many years. I've never been there. And then they switched it over to Santa Rosa, and those people that used to go to Monterey, they like Santa Rosa better. It's a better venue. And for me, this was the very first time I went, so because I always thought that it was a little bit too expensive, which it kind of is. But if you don't go every year, then I guess it's okay. All right, so that's it. So we'll go to closed session.
Yes.
Let's forgotten,
Almost forgotten about.
Okay, I'll now provide my closed session report. There was no reportable action.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, meeting adjourned.
Hope you feel better,
Good night.
Julie.
You take care of
Thank you
yourself.
so much. All right, bye, everybody.